Hopefully this works. Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Just back here with a live stream. Let me know if the audio is fine, because I am tweaking some settings with my microphone. Probably going to get a new microphone as well, ultimately, but yeah, I just want to make sure it works for the stream and that we're all good. Probably make it louder as well. What do you do with Timber? I don't know, Timber's a bit of a tricky one. I feel like with Timber, you probably want to just look at who's your first auto sub. Are you comfortable with the idea that maybe Timber's benched? Like, not even benched, but just maybe out of the squad. Like, he could just get protected, because it is a very, on paper, easy game for Arsenal. All right, I've literally spilt my milk. Well, not milk, but coffee, but... I made 3 transfers in the end. I did Virgil to Hincapié, I did Mbumo to Sobo, and I did KDH to Semenyo. Yeah, I mean, no need to cry. Yeah, I mean, I will probably actually consider bringing in, like, the reason why I wanted to do this is I do think that the 5 mid structure is really good for the next 2 weeks. And we're kind of in a phase in FPL where you're just doing short-term transfers. And I think game week 18 is the next sort of situation where you actually want to be looking for transfers to make, right? So like it's the next, I guess, United fixture run, the next Everton fixture run. So yeah, definitely game week 18, Hincapié can go back to... And to be fair, it's also a good week to maybe reshop Virgil, but I think, yeah, I'm looking at my team now. I did like going for the midfield 5. Yes, of course, Dewsbury Hall is absolutely incredible over that fixture run. But it doesn't really mean, I can't go back into him. It's just I would like to have Semenyo versus Burnley at home, and things like that. So yeah, I've gone really aggressive with my moves, but I think this is the best way to do it. I did avoid 2 price drops yesterday, but I will be taking technically 2 price drops today, because Dewsbury Hall will rise, so that's 0.1 lost on him on paper, and then obviously Semenyo will fall tonight. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really want to have KDH playing this week over Semenyo. So I mean, that 0.1 or 0.2 transfer drop, I don't really mind so much. Yeah, it is aggressive. I think the United players will play, but we don't have any news on it, right? Or has news suddenly come out about it? Let me see if there's actually any news. Bruno or Haaland captain this week? I'd probably go Bruno personally. But if you want to go Haaland, I don't really mind that. Starting from the top of the chat, thank you for Doz. Congratulations on top 10k. Well, job's not done yet, right? We still have so long of a season to go. Obviously, I've been very fortunate and lucky this half of the season, but it could just go the other way very, very quickly. Nice to see you, Jas. Nice to see HDB. What do you think of Enzo to Wilson? I think actually holding Enzo makes sense this week. I probably would actually sell Enzo the week after this instead. The link is, yeah, it's not broken. I think it didn't start the live stream on time. Or rather, I had to delay a couple of minutes just to get the audio set up. Do you like Mango? I do like Mango. Nice to see you around. What to do with Timber? I think we did discuss this, but personally, I think it comes down to auto sub. But also, like, equally, if you can do something like let's say, I don't know, Timber to Hincapié, do you get any benefits from that? Is something to think about. It is painful though, because I think if you're, let's say, a Timber owner and Timber starts and you suddenly did Timber to Hincapié, you'd probably feel a little bit bad about it. So yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Minte to Semenyo, I think, is okay if you're willing to take the price drop, assuming that Minte probably will get a price drop himself as well. But he, like, both these players and Minte to Semenyo have really good fixtures next week. How many free transfers do I have left? I've got 2 left, so that means we've got 3 for next week. But I'm planning to roll next week, so that means we should have 4 for game week 7 or game week 18, which is when I plan to probably use 2 more transfers at that point, or maybe 3. Can be a bit more aggressive, because I think the way I kind of see it in terms of windows, right, in terms of fixtures, is if we just go through the fixture kind of ticker for a bit, I think this week is a pretty popular week for transfers, right? People will be shopping for triple Arsenal this week. People will be shopping for more Liverpool this week, because this is sort of the start of the Liverpool fixture run. people will also be shopping for Brentford players this week. And then 17, I feel like the only fixture that's interesting that people might not have captured is Bournemouth. However, if you haven't captured Triple City, you're going to do that, right? But I'm not going to do that because I already have Triple City. And then Game Week 18 is the start of an amazing Everton fixture run. And of course, once again, another two... Like, Liverpool's a bit weird because I do think that, yes, of course, they have nice fixtures. But actually, when you look at, let's say, if I look at Sobo, from an attacking point of view, I don't mind it so much. But from a defensive point of view, if we look at the fixtures here, I think Wolves at home, Leeds at home is actually really good. But then, 20 is probably the week right after that, which is Fulham away here, where you can actually think about selling Liverpool. Sure, you're going to miss Burnley at home, but Fulham away, Arsenal away are not great games either. So I think that's actually where the Liverpool fixture run from a defensive point of view probably ends. With Sobo, I think I'd keep an open mind to just keeping him, depending on how, let's say, this Liverpool attack kind of progresses. And also, like, I'd like to, we might have news on, let's say, Salah and whether he's going to move out of the game, whether he's going to be, still sort of a contender when it comes to playing for Liverpool coming out of AFCON. We don't really even know what the news is for Salah long term. So then I think 18, as I said, is a week where you spend quite a few transfers. Maybe Man United versus Newcastle doesn't actually look like that good of a game on paper. I think United's fixture run technically more so starts in Game Week 19. But it's very possible that a lot of us will be going for Matheus Cunha here. Although, in my position, I guess, where I own someone like, let's say, a Semenyo, I don't necessarily need to force that move then. But yeah, this week is interesting where we'll probably see what happens to Branthwaite and whether he's fit. But you have an opportunity to just move into Michael Keane there, or we kind of have to spend a little bit more money and go for Tarkowski, and then Dewsbury Hall is around. So let's say if I don't like Cunha for whatever reason around this fixture run, it's possible that I just go back to a KDH structure. But the point of going out of KDH for me was actually just to bank on, let's say, Bournemouth versus Burnley, and to probably enjoy some short-term advantages and then, ship out. On 19, I don't think anything particular happens. However, I do think 19, roughly speaking, could be the start of Gabriel coming back into the game. So for anyone who actually, let's say, is looking to just go immediately back into Gabriel, this is probably around the time he comes back. Whether it's, let's say Aston Villa at home or whether it's actually more so Bournemouth away is up for consideration. But there's obviously, a lot of people will just want to move straight back into Gabriel. So that's something to think about around this point in time. Other than that, I think there's nothing very interesting in terms of Game Week 20. As I said, it's probably a week where you want to sell Liverpool players. 21, once again, is a pretty boring week. Because this is still part of the Brentford fixture run, so you're not going to do anything there. But it's 22 where I think some transfers start to change for certain managers. So 22 is interesting because I think this is the start of another Chelsea fixture run. So if we think about Cole Palmer, who right now, if you look at Enzo Maresca's latest press conference comments, it still seems like he's struggling with pain. So whilst we own players like Saka, this is a convenient opportunity. I think if Palmer seems relatively pickable, to go into him or to consider alternative options, right? If something goes wrong with Palmer's season. But, the Chelsea defense that we've probably, not been invested into for a long time is I think a good buyback here. And maybe you dip back into Liverpool if you really want this Burnley fixture. But that's kind of how I see the for my own team at least, where I'm going to spend a lot of transfers based on the gaps that I have within my team. So I think 22 is a big week, 18/19 is a big week. And then for me, yeah, I'm going to roll on 17 is just generally my plan. And I hope that kind of makes sense for a lot of other managers out there who are making moves too. A couple super chats that I've missed over that run. So I'm sorry, I can't see the full name, but Naira11, I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much for the super chats. So your first question was actually which two to start, Tarkowski, Senesi, Richards. I think I would still start Tarkowski. Just because Chelsea without Caicedo, I'm not too confident about them. Then I'd probably go Senesi as well. Only reason being that I think the stats kind of suggest that United is a pretty good game to get DEFCON versus, and Senesi is like the best DEFCON in the game. I think both Senesi and Richards will concede. So I would probably just pick Senesi on that basis because, best chance of DEFCON there. So those two I think I would start. As far as selling Rice for Bruno G, I think Rice is 100% going to start, my friend. I wouldn't doubt it at all. I think he's the one You just need to keep him. This is a great fixture as well. I think Rice was also sick, right? So that's why he missed sort of being included in the Champions League squad. Don't worry about the training photos because Arteta is Arteta. He'll never share a training photo of someone that he, doesn't confirm availability for. So I personally think Rice will start this match, and I'm not really worried about that. Next 3 fixtures in terms of Anderson or Tete. Tete plays more attacking. Yeah, that's true. I still think Anderson's better at DEFCON, generally speaking. So obviously, like, looking at the sample size previously is not that good in terms of like 1 to 2 games. Yes, of course, Tete got DEFCON last match. But yeah, I think Anderson, generally speaking, is probably the better pick that I would go with. Because DEFCON is much more consistent than attacking returns when you compare to, let's say, someone like Tete, who's just not that attacking in the first place. What do you think about Chalobah on the wild card? I think, yeah, if you have the opportunity to just shelve a Chelsea player, he's probably one to think about. At the same time, I guess if you want to go Chalobah, like, why not consider someone like Sanchez, who's like very, very cheap? Brighton 1471 says he's having a fantastic season. Could you give me some overarching advice on how to navigate these 5 transfers? I think personally, I think the overarching advice is be comfortable with short-term punts over this period, whilst managing a steady flow of at least 2 to 3 transfers in the bank, and acknowledging that you will miss short-term opportunities, right? So, for example, for me, I wanted to go Semenyo because I do like the 2 short-term games here, but it's also, recognizing that someone like Semenyo is not exactly going to be on everyone else's radar. So let's say you have the same midfield as me, but you've got Mateus Cunha. You're not going to go Cunha to Semenyo next week. You're just going to keep Cunha because Cunha generally has a better fixture run. So I feel like when you look at your own team, the overarching advice is, for the players that I have, which are the players that I'm willing to let go for 2 to 3 weeks to get maybe better short-term fixtures from other players. And I think that segment that I sort of did just now in terms of like, what are the teams to target every single week and to make sure you kind of stay ahead of the field, that's kind of what I would do, right? For example, next week, if you don't have Triple City, I think you have to dedicate transfers to Triple City next week. You might skip out on Bournemouth versus Burnley, but then the next opportunity is probably Everton in Game Week 18, or let's say United on Game Week 19. So that's what I would just generally think about from an overarching point of view. What are the players that within my own team I can move in and out, short term, and probably get an advantage out of it. And Mbeumo out. Yeah, I did go Mbeumo out. I didn't really want to deal with the news of, whether he's going to play or not. And he was going to drop yesterday, so I just chose to move out of him. Now, of course, I'm going to tank a Semenyo drop as well, but at least Semenyo is going to play next week, and I'm not worried about that, right? Bench order. Also, by the way, if you guys are in the chat, you guys enjoying the chat as well, please feel free to like. That really does support the stream. And of course, subscribe whilst you're here. I'm really proud of the cheat sheet series that I do every single week. So if there's one piece of FPL content that you want to watch from me, I would recommend it would be the cheat sheet, hopefully. Bench order: Richards, Matete, Alderete, Mateta. I'd probably have Mateta first, then I'd probably have Alderete, then Richards, actually. What about Minte, Anderson, Rodon to O'Reilly, Sobo, KDH? I think that's pretty strong. If you can bench KDH, that works. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the chat. I just bought Semenyo back after selling him last week. This is fine. This is FPL at its finest in the sense, right? Where the game is actually just about moving between players short term when you have a bank of 5 free transfers, because kind of the whole point of it is I have a security blanket. It's not like my job here is to have 5 free transfers every week, and it's such a flex for me that I can only use 1 free transfer. Like this week, I could have rolled, if I really wanted to, but at the same time, what's sort of the point? Like when I can maximize the short term every single week, and I still have like 2-3 transfers in the bank, which will be 3 next week, I'm okay with that. I have most of the top threats this week with regards to Saka captain, Sobo potentially on pens, at least for some indefinite amount of minutes. And then I've got Semenyo, locked in next week. The FPL Fran cheat sheet is my greatest asset in FPL. I appreciate that, my friend. Anish, thank you so much for the super chat. Start one of Rodon, Keane, or Lacroix. Man, I kind of like Michael Keane. I just think that the Chelsea team has looked a bit flat, with Caicedo being out. I'd probably just go for Keane. Why Sobo? I think with Gakpo being out and with Salah going out, that's more set pieces for Sobo. With Isak being injured, that's more penalty share. Not to mention that Isak is not really fit anyways. Like Isak is not currently someone who is able to play 90 minutes a match. So Sobo is going to have at least a portion of penalties, which we could see, for example, within the Champions League game. So the more instances that will happen, I'll take that. Actually ended up doing 4 free transfers, had the standard 3 free transfers, but I thought I may as well get on Hinkapie. Yeah, I do think Hinkapie is worth a transfer, Dream Brother 22. If it's free, right? We're not asking people to take hits for Hinkapie, but if you have the opportunity to go for Hinkapie this week for a free transfer, and you don't have triple Arsenal, I mean, 60% clean sheet odds from, I think, the 11fi.com model. I mean, that's mental. If anyone's actually looking at suggested transfers as well, definitely do recommend also looking at the link in description, just to check out, what the AI team suggestions are for your best transfers this week. Harry Wilson or Njai. Harry Wilson for sure. I mean, this is a bad Njai game, and Njai leaves to AFCON. Hey man, I have Raya. Senesi to Hinkapie or O'Reilly? I actually think O'Reilly's a better long-term move, personally. I know Hinkapie is incredible. The thing with Senesi too is you got to think about Senesi next week is fantastic. So if you're going to ship him out, you might as well ship him out for the more long-term option. I do think O'Reilly's worse than Hinkapie this week, but long-term I think he's incredible. Yeah, sure. I'm not so sure how to pronounce his name. I do apologize. Please tell me phonetically how to pronounce it best. But thank you for the super chat. Henderson, Munoz, Minte, Gakpo, and JSL out for Kelleher, White, Eze, Captain, Harry Wilson, Thiago. I'm not a huge fan of Eze because I think that's a very short-term move. I think White is also a bit of a short-term move. Like, for example, let's say if Saliba and Timber were to come back, I think White could still find himself back on the bench, and I think maybe Hinkapie would start over White. That's my suggestion, but it's also possible maybe they play Timber, Saliba, and White, and then you could be right. I do think Akpo has to go, and JSL has to go, so Thiago makes sense, and I'd probably try and consider someone like Sobo over Eze, and I'd probably... It does seem like you want to consolidate triple Arsenal, though. I guess in the Eze position, could Eze become Semenyo next week? Like if you were punting ahead, or if you were just moving your free transfers along, like do you still have money for Eze out? Because I personally would sell Eze after this game week. If you want to punt versus Wolves at home and you want to punt that start, I think that's fine. But that's probably the only transfer that I don't like. I think Kelleher's okay. White, I'd probably just consider White or Hinkapie, but if you feel like White is the player who's going to start more, go for White. I won't really dispute Wilson, but I also think like Anton Stack's pretty good, to be honest. Like, cause for me, Anton Stack is basically a carbon copy of KDH. Ping FN says, hey Fran, big fan of the cheat sheet series. Is it possible to triple captain Bruno versus Wolves in Game Week 19? I think it is, right? I'm pretty sure. Because before the end of Game Week 19, I think you can use your last chip, right? So totally I think it's fine to do that. Everyone and their mom's captaining Saka this week. I think this is a very good week for Saka. I mean, let's poll it, to be honest. Like, I want to see what people are doing with captaincy. I think, to me, the only options are Saka, Haaland, Bruno. But I know that other people, for example, considering players like Eze as well. Have I played all my first half chips? Yeah, I have. I have indeed. You don't own Saka, so you're captaining Haaland, Bruno. That's fine. If you're not going to go Saka this week, I mean, like, you don't have to force your way there. I know for a lot of people that costs 2 to 3 transfers, and maybe it's not worth it. And, you don't have to. Best week to bench boost, I can't really explain how I would bench boost. Because, like, everyone has a different team. Like, your bench boost is just looking at your bench every single week and just saying, like, what's your like what's your preferred bench order? Lucas, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain. For anyone else who's here as well, you can join as a member of the channel. I think right next to the subscription button. That will give you access to a Discord chat as well, and a couple other features. But primarily it is to support me. So thank you so much for your support, Lucas, and I appreciate that. So Hale, thank you so much for the super chat. Your free hit team so far is Leno, White, MLS, Anderson. I do like White MLS just for the pun. Anderson, Sobo, Foden, Bruno, Saka, Ekitike. Oh, Ekitike is nice. Dubravka, Wilson, Alderweireld, and Estev. What do you think? Sharing yours soon. Man, I think that's a good free hit. Like, I've got no complaints. I think Sobo would have found his way towards my free hit as well, based on the information that we got this week, like in the middle of the week with the Champions League game. Ekitike minutes are nice too. It's a fair point. Like, we can work through our free hit if you want to do that now, guys. I feel like this is probably going to be hopefully good Ekitike minutes this week. But yeah, I do think Sobo is going to find his way towards the free hit structure. Let's just build that out now. I think White's likely to start as well. So from a free hit perspective, I think he's definitely worthy of consideration. In terms of defenders, I mean, this is probably still going to be a great Kukurea game, but I don't know if he's gonna land himself on the old free hit here. I feel like Mbeumo probably has to leave the free hit, just because if like for me, the way I see it is like 10 to 20. If there's a 10 to 20% chance that he's not going to make this game, then that kind of just guts him as an option. Whereas you'd probably actually just go Dango right this week, like in the free hit. So I think probably the one pick on the free hit that I'm not seeing within that draft that you posted was probably just going to be maybe a consideration of Dango, but because you're going 3-4-3, that's probably why you've not really considered him. So let's just go through a free hit now. I do like going Leno, but I don't know. Something about Everton versus Chelsea just, I don't know, screams clean sheet to me. So I think that's kind of just an optional thing. You don't really even need to spend money on this free hit, because I think you can't really trust Palmer's minutes. So it's like you kind of just go Haaland anyways. If you want to take a bit more of a risky approach, of course you can just not have Haaland in the free hit, right? But if you're going to captain him, I guess you're basically just saying you want Saka to outscore Haaland, but you still want Haaland to do very good versus, let's say, the next option on the free hit, which I think is still logical from that perspective. Let's go Leno, let's go Sanchez, just to lock them both in, because they're probably the best goalkeepers this week anyways. We can take these all out. Maybe we can keep Hincapié. How much is Skelly? Maybe if I could spell. All right, what am I doing wrong here? Okay, sorry, you just have to write Lewis. I do absolutely hate the UI in terms of like I think sometimes I really struggled with spelling O'Reilly for a long time. I don't even know what it was on the app. It just seemed like it was a bug. But okay, we can maybe consider Skelly. I do kind of like Hincapié White. I don't know, something about... I think Skelly has that sort of slip and pass, like in that sort of through ball, like in between towards like more of a Martinelli type. He's got that in his locker, but I do still like Hincapié for Defcons. And if you watch the Club Brugge game, he was actually really good with set pieces. So I think I'd probably go for him. But I think, yeah, we go Anderson. Maybe we just have Collins like just as a bench option. And then I guess you've got Tete as well as a bench option. Just to think about, you've got Saka, you've got Sabo, you probably, I would say like Foden is the Cunha spot, right? Let's just forget about that for a second. I think you do go Dango potentially. I'm trying to think of any other midfielders that would sort of land in the draft. I think that's it, right? I think I'd prefer Dango to Wilson, Harry Wilson that is, so... Let's just say that this is the draft structure. And then we're going... Well, you've got Ekitike, which obviously is expensive. I'm trying to think now. Like, do I like Ekitike more than Dango? Maybe. I quite like Ekitike, to be fair. We can't afford it, obviously. But I probably think I would personally just go with this. So if I did this, basically you're playing White, Anderson, Hincapié, and probably pairing him with Leno just because you're backing Fulham anyways. And then in the midfield, I think I'd go for the 3-5-2. But if you go Ekitike, I guess the way you've done that is you've just gone super cheap on bench, right? Sorry. Literally mumbling here, but yeah, I think if we drop, let's say we go back to Dubravka, we drop Collins to, I don't know, let's say a Stev. Like a Stev is going to be a perfectly fine cheap auto sub this week. That's our, okay, that's most of the Ekitike money back. What else am I missing here? I guess you can always go Cunha plus a cheaper defender than Tete. I guess that's how you ended up on Mazda Scully, right? Because I guess you just needed to save a bit of money. And you probably don't have Dango. You probably have a cheaper auto sub as well, don't you? Like, I guess if you don't go Dango this week, the best auto sub that I can think of as a midfielder is Stack. So I guess you could do that. So I do kind of think within the draft that you've kind of suggested, structurally speaking, I'd probably consider either Ekitike or Dango. And I think that's up to you. I don't think they're actually that far apart. But Ekitike is probably a bit more fun, right? So let's say we bench Stack first bench, then we do set. Maybe we even have Tete first bench, actually. Tete first bench, then Stack, then a Stev. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good bench boost. I mean, like, you're materially, like, just, you know, you have a good draft. I think that's a good free hit structure for me. Like, this way you're sort of you're backing double Liverpool offense if you go Ekitike, or you're backing double Brentford offense if you're going Dango, right? So it's very similar to free hit 13. You're backing the City offense anyways. However, I do think Foden is kind of interchangeable with Cunha, but I think Foden I just prefer. So I would go Foden as well. And Bruno's Bruno. You go double Arsenal defense, but not the ones that people own. And obviously, if, let's say, Yuri and Timber is out, then, like, you know, you're laughing with White and Hincapié. And then you're hoping that, you know, Anderson will finally keep a clean sheet with Leno, which, if there was ever a fixture for that to happen, and it has happened a couple of times this, like, when they've played really bad teams this season, I think they've kept their clean sheets, right? So Sunderland at home, Wolves at home. These were home games, of course. But, you know, they have kept their clean sheets. Leeds at home. So you would hope Burnley away they could keep the clean sheet. Like, it's kind of primed for it, but let's see what happens. All right, so that's going to be the free hit. Hopefully that was a good little derailment section there. But going back into chat, so I think Barbara Milker says thoughts on Ekitike. I personally like Ekitike from a free hit perspective. I just think structurally speaking, I'm not sure if I love Ekitike as a transfer. I think I'd rather have Sobo in my team. I think I'd rather have a 3-5-2 than, let's say, spend a little bit more money to go 3-4-3. I hope that makes sense. Dimitri, thank you so much for the super chat. Is Timber to Hincapié, Casemiro to Sobo worth 2 free transfers? That will be a total of 4 used. Otherwise, you've got Minte for a sub in case Timber is out. I personally think it's worth 2 free transfers, just because you at least get Sobo in, and he's a very nice pick. I would love for Sobo to get suspended this match, or, you know, suspended for the next match, which is Tottenham away, and then we keep Sobo for Wolves at home, because if he gets suspended for Wolves at home, I will be crying. All right, 400 of you guys in chat. I really do appreciate you guys being here. Saka won the captaincy poll. We can end that now. Thoughts on Marino as a pick? I just think it's too short term. You know, it's a bit too short term. Like, sometimes you also have to think in FPL, if you go for a short term transfer, if let's say if every player in your team suddenly got injured again, or, you know, like, if you had 2 or 3 more additional injuries, you know, what would be the problem, right? So, for example, like, if you went Marino, I feel like subsequently he's not going to start a lot of games. Whereas if you went for someone like Semenyo, you know, next week he still has Burnley at home. Next week after that, he still has Brentford away. So he's a short-term pick for me, but still not that short-term. Marino for me is like, could start, could play 45 minutes and get subbed off, which is possible, right? That happened in the Aston Villa game. So yeah, I don't like Marino as a pick at all. Benching to offer Elliot Anderson, I think that makes sense just about. I mean, it's close, right? Both it's kind of like asking for DEFCON and just seeing whether, like, those players can kind of hit the higher end of the threshold. Timber to Hincapie is probably worth it if you can make another free transfer that actually improves your team a lot. Not the biggest Ramsdale love in recent weeks. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, people go from phases where, like, they don't like Pope and then suddenly Ramsdale plays and suddenly they don't like Ramsdale, right? Ultimately, I guess both of them aren't, like, amazing. Is Minty and Anderson in the midfield still good? I think they're still pretty good as a rotation pair, but generally speaking, I think Sobo has kind of, like, moved ahead in priority for myself as a pick. So, yeah, something to think about. What do I prefer? Triple Captain Saka this week or Haaland next week? I think... Honestly, I would still go Haaland. That's the way that I would think about it. Stella says he's free hitting this week. Have you checked how many clones you got since you post your team so early? I mean, I can't really check the clones, right? Also, it's very unlikely that people actually have my team because I tend to make free transfers very early within the game week, and I don't think they have the same transfer value as me. So you have to have extremely high team value to have the same team as me, and I just don't think it's possible. Personally, the way that I play FPL is I do like making moves. Don't ever become a radio DJ. Sorry, I was actually responding to someone in chat. It's a bit important because obviously on these kind of deadline weeks, I do have to kind of respond to people in terms of making their moves and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the point in terms of FPL Karim's question, I think we can check how many clones I have after the game week deadline, right? Because then you can actually just see whether people have the same team. As far as the question in terms of... I think I actually did miss one of the questions, though. Do I plan to keep double Palace defense? Not necessarily. I think they can transfer... Like, they can go out, but then at the same time, because they're the best def corners in the game, like, the way that I see these fixtures, they're actually still pretty much incredible. Like, Leeds away, I think, is amazing auto sub next week, especially if Sobbo's out. Tottenham at home, I think that's actually still a good game. Fulham at home, probably the best game over this run. And, you know, they feel like more of a sell around game week 20. You know, because 20 to 25, I think, are all mediocre fixtures, but then, you know, 26 will probably be back into investing into Palace, right? Start KDH, O'Reilly, or Minte. I think I would personally start O'Reilly. I think O'Reilly's going to play... He should play most of the games from here on out, and I still think that because Crystal Palace is such an amazing game for City, you're never really going to look at O'Reilly as being a sub. Like, they lost the FA Cup to City. I just think Pep is the type of manager where he thinks if he sees a tough opponent, he's going to react to that in some form or fashion, right? So Sunderland, for example, he respected them by playing his full strength team. Some people suggested that he would bench players. I thought that was ridiculous. And I still think with Crystal Palace, like O'Reilly, he's shown he can play 3 fixtures in a week, and I think he'll do it again. Unfortunately, he has to. It's okay, bro. I have to keep looking at my second monitor thinking the stream is stalled. All right, man, I'm sorry about that. Is 3 Arsenal defense viable? I think it is, but this is such a good sort of week for something like a Saka captaincy, right? Leave out one of the following: Teo, Anderson, Virgil, O'Reilly. I'd probably bench Malik Teo. Morning, Fran. Morning, Tom. How are you? Do you think Marino starts? I don't think so necessarily. I never have any clones. Fair enough. I think I have clones at the start of the season, but then very quickly I make moves that people disagree with, which is fine. Or ultimately, I make some couple early transfers and, you know, people don't have the same team as me. I mean, I don't really play this game, to be honest, to have people have the same team as me. Like, if you were actually... Well, on Game Week 4 wildcard, for example, a lot of people went with my wildcard team, and then for 5 or 6 weeks, I had some managers that I actually know personally that, you know, stayed on the same team. there's one manager that I do chat to a lot with transfers, and I think we have the same team right now, but that's not something I've done previously. But it is, I think conceptually it's interesting, because I was listening on a podcast one time with a manager that I do respect in terms of Dilksy, suggesting that he really enjoyed the idea of just conversing with someone who actually has your dilemmas. Because in FPL, what tends to happen is people just say like, oh, is this player essential? Which is a completely nonsense question. The question is always going to be like, is this good for my team? But no one actually, like when you ask someone for advice and they don't have the exact same team as you, I think what tends to happen is they just try to think about what their own team is, and then they answer the question from that sort of vein. So let's say if this week I was asking people to sell Mbumo, they probably wouldn't do that because they don't have the dilemma of, okay, I actually have to deal with the consequences of Mbumo being potentially suspended for whatever reason from playing Game Week 16, and then, missing out on price rises and falls from that perspective. So yeah, I do quite enjoy that aspect of discussing in detail like what the moves would be. But I think also because I've spent so much time as a content creator, I do actually often look at many different teams. And part of the cheat sheet series kind of allows me to think, okay, what would I do if I had different teams? So I do quite enjoy that. Any love for Eze over, say, Mbumo on free hit? Yeah, I think it makes sense. You do lose double Arsenal defense though, right? So I think the concern with that, and thank you for the super chat, is going to be, am I losing upside? Because let's say Arsenal defense could be much better versus the next second or third defender for that game week. But Eze might not necessarily be that much better than, let's say, I don't know, a Sobo this week as an example. Is triple or double Arsenal essential if you don't have Saka? I don't think so. I think if you're not going to go Saka, you can probably just go double Arsenal defense and you're chilling. Also, it's really hard to even pick Arsenal players right now, right? So you have, let's say, Timber, who's got the yellow flag. So the only defender that I kind of like bringing in is probably Hincapié, or if you have tremendous faith in White, he's also an option. So it's tough. Can I check the private chat, 3NTG? Yeah, I absolutely can. Are we talking about the Discord channel? Yeah, so we actually operate a members-only Discord channel, so let me just quickly have a look at that in a brief moment. Abdul says, start one of Xhaka, Richards, Gu, or Senesi. I'd probably start Grant Xhaka, to be honest, or Senesi. All right, let's go back to the private chat. Dun, dun, dun. Archie had a question in chat. I do think a lot of people are asking me basically Timber to Hincapié. And to be fair, the chat has also kind of asked that same question, right? Because the idea is, if you own Timber now and you think that he's suspended for, I mean, let's say he doesn't play Wolves at home, which I think is actually a reasonable possibility. The problem with that is if Timber misses out on the game, you're going to, I guess, generally struggle with, if he misses out that game, that lost expected value. Whereas if you go Hincapié now, I feel like you get basically the same value this week, and maybe he's a transfer out in the future, but you could always still transfer him out in the future. Let's say you own Timber now. It's very possible that in a few game weeks time, because Gabriel's cheaper anyways, you want to move Timber to Gabriel. So I think conceptually speaking, okay, it is an additional free transfer, but you do protect yourself from the situation where Timber doesn't play. So it's very similar to my Mbumo transfer out situation, where I would say, if I was to compare Mbumo and Virgil, who I would have played this week, over Semenyo and Sobo, what is the opportunity cost? If Mbumo blanks, I would have to play my auto sub, which would have been Dewsbury Hall. In this case, I don't really feel like I need an auto sub as much as I did within the Mbumo path. So with the Timber situation, I think it always comes down to who's your first auto sub. Is it good? And if it's not, then maybe the Hincapié move makes sense. Not to mention, you can also just use the Hincapié move to actually make another upgrade in your team. Why is Waltermart not a green anymore in your cheat sheet? Well, I mean, he's just played Tottenham at home and Burnley away, and those are two good fixtures gone for the Newcastle run. And his minutes just don't look particularly good anyways, because they're also managing things like Champions League and cup games and stuff like that, and his own personal fitness. And also, the more minutes that Gordon plays, it kind of just inversely impacts Waltermard, because that just takes penalty share away from him. Simon Jace, thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. 2208. If Senesi / Timber aren't fit, who would you sub on out of Cash, Gu, King? Cash for sure. If Senesi / Timber are fit, okay, so you've asked the question twice. I probably think I'd have Gu over. Sorry, I think I'd have King over Gu in terms of the order, but I still think I'd have Cash first, right? Is Saka really a need for a long? I don't think Saka is necessarily a need for the long term, but you also kind of have to think about. So what happens with, let's say, like this week in terms of captaincy? I think first of all there could be a major swing if you don't have Saka, and I think like it goes both ways, right? Probably Haaland's ownership is above 100%, so of course the risk is on the players who own Saka and will captain him. Like the onus is on them to do better. So if you feel like you're not comfortable going Saka captain anyways, I think you don't need it. Because after this game week, I don't think I would captain Saka for any single game week after that. The main question is though, like, what are you spending money on? So I do think Saka is generally still a better upgrade than Rice, and people can disagree because obviously total points, you know, people like looking at that in FPL, but it just changes every week, and ultimately you're trying to pick who's going to do better in the future, not who's done well already. I just think with Palmer being pretty like dubious in terms of minutes, Saka is still one of the best picks to hold. Yeah, it's not the same question twice. Did I miss it? Oh, if Senesi / Timber, but the thing is, we don't know if Senesi and Timber are fit though, right? It is technically the same question because it's just all about auto sub order, right? Like I think I'd have Cash, King, Gu regardless of whether I had any information about Senesi and Timber. And the reality is we're not going to have information on Senesi and Timber. Like if you think about it, you won't have information on Senesi / Timber, so you don't know whether they're fit or not, right? That's kind of like, that's an intangible that you'll have to deal with. And the auto sub order should always be like who I like first in terms of auto subs, then second, then third. Thanks for the great content, Paul. Apart from Saka, which other Arsenal attackers do you expect to start? I think Yok starts. I think Eze starts. I think Rice starts. I think Madueke is tough because it depends on Martinelli. Best replacement for Teo? I think just play him. You don't really need a replacement for him this week. Who would you bench out of O'Reilly, Timber, Teo, and Virgil? Probably Teo, because I think Timber... I kind of think Timber's in a situation where he starts or doesn't play. Hi, Fran. Really loving your content. It's really refreshing differential. I have learned a lot from you. You're having a great season. Hope that you finish top 500. I do too. All right. Let's see what happens. But I think top 500 is just like something that's absolutely ridiculous in FPL. Like finishing once in the top 500, I think I'm happy with. But if we can do it again, I mean, why not? Why are a lot of people rushing into the Enzo transfer? I feel like Enzo... I don't think Enzo is better this week than Sobo, but I think both of them are fantastic. Also, someone asked about the Sobo yellow card threat. That's absolutely a threat. The way that I kind of like looked at my team was every single week, like who's my auto sub for Sobo? The way that I see it is like, let's say if Sobo gets suspended for next week, I don't mind because actually a Crystal Palace auto sub is probably one of the best picks next week anyways. Whereas if I look beyond that and I have, let's say, Sobo suspended for Wolves at home, then I think I would see it more as an opportunity to just sell Sobo entirely, right? If I miss Wolves at home, then Sobo probably is going to become... maybe that's... Honestly, I could go Semenyo Sobo to Cunha KDH is basically how I would pivot around that. With the leak of Salah being benched and Wirtz starting up front, would you pick Wirtz on Fred as a punt? Probably not, if I'm honest. I still think structurally it's not going to be like Wirtz as some sort of... I mean, like if you watched the game versus, let's say, Inter Milan, like you saw Wirtz come on as a sub for Isak, right? But it's not like he was... like he was not operating as some sort of like forward within that game as a sub, so I wouldn't worry too much. What are my expected transfers next week? Right now I'm planning to roll to O'Reilly. I think I'd play O'Reilly. Any ideas on how to move away from Van de Ven? 5 mil in the bank, got Guardiola, Timber, Guehi, and Goodmanson. Ooh, that's a bit tough one because you can't go O'Reilly and you can't go Hincapie, right? So I think I'd probably just buy a Brentford defender. So probably someone like Vandenberg or Collins. Who's better in this week? Mukiele, Guehi. Probably would just go Mukiele. TL or KDH, I would play TL this week. Yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting in chat as well. If you guys haven't already, please feel free to like and subscribe. That really does help support the channel. So thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, Collins makes sense, but of course Collins does have 4 yellow card suspension threat. However, of course, with the defender, I think that's not a huge problem because you tend to have at least most weeks like a good auto sub. Like for example, next week I'll have probably 2 Palace defenders on the bench if everything goes to plan. You really want Saka, but you don't want to downgrade Timber. You still don't know. You still have Mateta or Waltamad. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably ship out a Mateta or Waltamad first over, let's say, necessarily forcing a Timber downgrade. So Hale says, you convinced me to go Hinkipi over MLS, but in doing it, you can't get Tete. You're 0.4 million out. Is Alderesi the best 4.1 million option? Yeah. I think that's a pretty good order. I mean, let me try to think about defenders this week who are actually like the best auto subs, right? Like, I think, yeah, I mean, Estev is up there as a cheap one. You can't afford Tete. I think Mukiele is the best one, pretty much. Tete is an extremely nice auto sub, though, I will say that. So that is a bit of a miss, but I mean, to be honest, Miles Lewis Skelly shouldn't be too far off Hincapié either. Like, if you want to go Skelly, I think just send it, you know? Loving this menu pick. Start Anderson or O'Reilly. I would start O'Reilly personally. Are we talking Elliot Anderson or Joachim Anderson? You still don't know Mateta or Waltamar to Thiago. I would probably go out of I'd probably go out of Mateta out because I think this is a worse fixture for Mateta than it is for Waltamad. Yeah, and you kind of do need a Gakpo replacement. I don't think you need a Minte replacement necessarily, but I think Gakpo to Sobo makes a lot of sense. Do I sell Mbumo for Saka? I think that's worth it. Start Thiago or Waltamad. I would probably just start Thiago. I mean, I don't really see... I think this is a much better fixture for Thiago. Eke, tea, and cake. My defense is Timber, Anderson, O'Reilly, Munoz, Alderete. You want to sell Munoz, obviously, and you're torn between Tarkowski and Vandenberg. I mean, the thing is, do you really want Tarkowski for the next 2 game weeks right now? It's literally Chelsea and Arsenal. So I'd probably go with Vandenberg short term. And then reassess. Hi, Fran. Mr. Transfers last night. Now you're priced out by 0.2 million. Same team as me. What transfers would I suggest? I'd probably just do Lacroix to Hincapié and Krupi Jr. to Gu. This way you can actually just you can get the KDH price rise and you can wait for Semenyo to fall. Then you can do Mbumo to Semenyo after Monday. Brentford ship goals. Yeah, but I'm not really sure what that means. Like, do you think Chelsea won't ship goals versus Arsenal and Everton? Because that's kind of the suggestion here, right? I mean, you're not saying you're going to hold Tarkowski for, like, we're not saying we're not going to roll ever again. Right? So you if you go, like, I for example love Tarkowski, but I wasn't going to go Tarkowski this week. I was going to go Hincapié, and even if I own Hincapié for 2 weeks, I'm comfortable with that. Just like, for example, I'd be a bit more comfortable owning Collins for 2 weeks and then moving to Tarkowski eventually. Sorry, Mohammed, I'm just going to have to put you in timeout because please don't spam the chat. You really believe that I'm the YouTuber who could actually win the game? I think I probably play with a touch more risk than others, but I probably still need to consider, like, I still need to improve in terms of, like, I don't know. Something I thought about was, okay, I was very aggressive in my 23-24 season where I finished top 500, but I think part of it was, like, I did show a bit of a lack of skill in terms of, like, patience around chip strategy, which I feel like I once again fell into the trap of last season with me going too early with the assistant manager chip because I felt like the window was, like, too good to ignore. Sometimes I just think in FPL, like, you as long as you know that there's fixtures to target and you still have the opportunity to use chips and stuff like that, you just don't need to throw everything at the wall so fast. So there's a bit of that I think I could work on. In terms of risk, yeah, I think there's probably situations where I think I have an extremely high risk preference. So like, if let's say it's a Haaland non-captaincy, I'll probably be the first one there. Same with Salah in previous seasons. Does it work out all the time? No, but I think it probably also gives me the best chance to get like genuine rank rises. And I think my understanding of like minutes around the game, I think are generally good. Like I don't tend to get minutes wrong. So I think that's strong. But then the rest of the game is just luck, right? So like winning FPL is basically impossible, but I will try. You have to start either Welbeck or Minte. I would pick Minte because there's actually suggestions that Welbeck might not even start. Cheers, Fran. Top 2K now from copying your team except for Lacroix and going Guehi ages ago. Man, fair play. That's disgusting, but fair play. Raptor. I'm not even Raptor, so I'm not going to answer that question, am I? Hello, Fran. I took on Dango as a punt for this game week. Who do you think I should replace him with after AFCON? Probably Semenyo. Is Enzo okay to hold for this game week? Yeah, of course he is. It's a pretty good fixture on paper for Chelsea. And honestly, like it doesn't seem like Palmer's fully fit, right? So that's just better for Enzo, like penalty share, etc. across the board. Nice consummate. Start Guehi versus City or Keane versus Chelsea. I'd probably actually start Keane, just because Chelsea look a bit flat with Caicedo out. And Mbuma will start. You really don't know because it kind of depends on the Cameroonian FA, right? And what they're discussing with United. I personally think that he will start, but I can't guarantee that, unfortunately. Should I get rid of Rice? No, I think Rice starts. Collins versus Vandenberg. If you can afford Collins, I would do that. Fran's on top of the world. Keep going. What do you mean, like in terms of like that I'm actually enjoying the game? I mean, this game is very hard to enjoy when things are going against your way. Like, obviously, I know that I've been lucky, but I mean, I've been lucky before, if that makes sense. So, let's see. Bench Dewsbury Hall or Minte? I'd probably bench Dewsbury Hall still. Actually, that's a tough one. Yeah, probably still Dewsbury Hall. Transfer Elliot Anderson to Sobo. I like that move. Yeah. Play KDH or O'Reilly? I think I play O'Reilly. Krupi Jr. hat-trick. I mean, like, it's actually possible that Krupi Jr. might not even play. Kaza, stop being such a silly boy, man. Don't be rude in the chat. Bench Dewsbury Hall or Dallo? I would bench Dewsbury Hall. I'd probably play Dallo. Yeah, I am top of the Content Creators League, which is nice. It's nice to be back there. I think I actually was dangerously close to bottling it in 23-24 because I had a really bad run of fixtures. Like, let's say when people did the wild card in Game Week 30, I believe, at that point in time in that season, I started to slip massively. Then I took a minus 16 and I fell pretty far down. And I think Ben Crellin was going to win the Content Creators League that season. But then I got super lucky the last few game weeks, including the last game week where I bought Eze for his brace. Man, Kaza, you're such a terrible manager. Like, I would never vice I'd never vice Saka 2 weeks ago versus West Ham at home. How much do Ben Crellin's decisions affect mine? None. I never look at his moves and think, okay, what am I going to do about my team? But I have spoken to Ben Crellin about making decisions. Like, for example, last season on the wild card, I think we were kind of building out the wild card together. I just laugh at his moves. No, what? No, yeah, but I have discussed moves with Ben Crellin in the past. I just, and obviously I respect him as a manager a lot. I think from a chip point of view, like, he still is absolutely king. Like, I think what I would do actually is, like, if at the chip strategy point of the season he does something and I'm going left field and doing the opposite, I probably would need to look at the mirror and say, like, what am I actually doing? As I said, that's the only part of FPL where I don't think I have a perfect grasp of it yet, even though I have better understanding of fixtures. It's more just like the interactions of, like, understanding the back half of the path, and why you might want to save up moves, like, or why you might want to save up chips for a certain thing. Like, I think he has a better view of that than even, let's say, solvers do. Personally, I think he's just very on the ball with that. So yeah, if I do something very left field from a chip strategy point of view in the second half of the season, I would probably question it. How much of my decisions are database versus eye test gut feeling? I feel like every week I get faced with like 50-50 decisions. So I end up just choosing the 50-50 on my gut. But how I arrive at the decisions that I'm going to make is probably a consequence of me looking at models, solvers, and my interpretation of minutes drive that drive the sort of points projections as well. And even, for example, like if I think someone's underrated by a model, I think I'm pretty happy to bet against that in those circumstances, if I can be convinced in a certain sort of way. Say if I think someone actually has penalty share, you know, that's something I'm just going to imply that this player just has generally more expected points, stuff like that. I don't currently use Solio, no, but I do have a look at Solio projections. I just don't use it. Philip Jovanovic, thank you so much for the super chat. If you had Timber, would you start him or would you buy Hinkapie? I would only buy Hinkapie if I felt like I don't have a good auto sub, or that the Hinkapie move was actually going to give me a lot of value. We're not going to get Timber news on this deadline, guys. 100%. Absolutely no chance we'll get Timber news. If you have Timber news, you would literally have to be close to Yuri and Timber. That's kind of the way that I see it. EY2383, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain, my friend. Hello, Harry. Is Timber starting? I don't know. You'll have to ask Harry. What's your best FPL memory? Yeah, finishing top 500. I think I was at the pub for an FPL meets. I literally, first of all, I found out that Saka was out of the squad for game week 38. And then I found out that I had Isak auto sub, and Isak, I'm pretty sure, had maybe 2 goals, 1 assist that match. Then over the course of the Crystal Palace game, because I think they were playing Aston Villa, who were on the beach, you know, finding out about the Eze brace was crazy. And I think that game week, I think people had Arsenal defense that week, right? So I think people had double Arsenal defense. I had 1 Arsenal defense. So in the pub, when Arsenal conceded to the I think Gana Gueye free kick, I was the only one who celebrated it, and I was terrible. I'm a terrible person. But yeah, you have to celebrate FPL like that. I'm not shy, but I think the Gyökeres minutes that I have would probably be around 65, 70 tops. Getting closer to my team. Mel, you're actually such a bad manager. I'm actually upset that I've given you a path to life in FPL. Because the moves that you make, it's just like you end up with some of the worst teams in FPL and some of the most boring picks. And you know, you might not take a hit, but at the end of the season, I'm still laughing on MD. That's all I'm gonna say. And now I've fixed you. Bench Anderson for Kukureya. Yeah, I'd bench Anderson for Kukureya for sure. Which 2 do I buy? KDH, Enzo, Sobo, Bruno G. I would buy Sobo, and I'd probably buy KDH and just hold him on the bench. Elliot Anderson to Harry Wilson, I think is a pretty fun punt. Cash or Anderson? I'd play Anderson over Cash. Can I check my Discord DM? Yeah, I can do. What's your... Are you Kai on Discord? Is that... Oh, AMS, perfect. I think when I look at your team, so you're gonna play 3-4-3, right? You're gonna play Hinkapie, Tio, Senesi. Man, I think I would just go O'Reilly personally. I think I'd sell one of my Palace defenders and go O'Reilly. This way you can still keep Senesi for next week. Does that make sense? Because I think O'Reilly starts. I think it gives you a good auto sub in terms of Senesi can be the auto sub in this situation. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. I would probably sell Richards just because you've got so much team value in Guehi and he's just a monster. Like, honestly, if you own Guehi, I feel like I'd never sell him, you know? I mean, why would you? Yeah. Enjoy yourself there, I would say. All right, back to chat. Hi, Fran. According to your latest response in Discord, I would probably just roll, yeah. I just think it's so tough making that Timber to Hinkapia move. If you're not planning to make an additional move on top of it, I wouldn't make a move. Graham Souls, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain. Do appreciate you being around, and thank you so much for the support. EY says start O'Reilly or move to all and bring in. Not just start O'Reilly, my friend. You do not need to be making a move. Can you build a wildcard draft? Yeah, we could probably look into a wildcard draft. All right, let's build a wildcard draft. I'd probably go Cunha over Semenyo on a wildcard. I'd go Q. Probably wouldn't have these two players. At the same time, do you really need Vandenberg? Do you even need Raya? You probably need Raya because we're just struggling with picks this week, so Raya makes sense. Okay, instead of maybe we still go Vandenberg because I'm trying to think. Okay, technically you could play Hinkapia, O'Reilly, Anderson for the next 3 weeks straight, right? What's stopping you from doing that? So you just like I'm actually generally trying to think what other defenders would I want to have in the next few weeks. Because you can't just play these 3 players. Like you can play Anderson versus Burnley away, Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham away. Like, you know, you'd never feel bad about doing that. Hinkapia, if he starts the next 3 games, you'd start him. O'Reilly, you definitely start the next 3 games as well. You know. So, do you actually need defenders? Like maybe you can get away with a Stev, and maybe that's a tricky one. Maybe I would go Senesi. Because Senesi kind of gives you Burnley at home, right? And that's probably quite good. I just think, honestly, if you look at this team right now, in terms of the Cunha spot, you can probably play 3-5-2 every single week. Do you need anything else in FPL right now? I generally think you're just laughing with these 3 players. I guess you do want to pocket. Yeah, maybe what I would do is this, right? I would go Tarkowski to have him on the bench. Then I'd go Estev, right? Something like this could make sense because, you know, Estev is a good auto sub for this week, so you want some auto subs. Tarkowski is generally really, really good. I don't think selling Dubravka makes any sense. Tarkowski's probably my favorite defender, like come, I don't know, let's say game week 20, right? So yeah, I guess Tarkowski season starts then. I think that's a pretty good team. Because eventually when Anderson becomes pretty useless, then you kind of have Tarkowski coming in. And O'Reilly, I think, is just generally good up until like game week 22-ish, right? That's when City's fixtures kind of turn like a little bit mushy. So the only problem, I guess, is Tarkowski does not rotate too well, but you can't go Virgil from this sort of structure, which I think is fine as well, personally. And if you don't like Cunha, and I guess you can always just, you know, say you don't like Cunha. The problem that I have is if you go Dewsbury Hall, what are you spending money on? Another forward, maybe? But it's like, do I actually like the forwards in this game? I don't think I do. So I would probably just go Cunha. And that's kind of why I binned off Dewsbury Hall, because even though he's exceptional, I think I'd rather have an Everton defender than an Everton midfielder, just from a team structure perspective. But it does kind of impinge on, I guess, does Cunha play good minutes, right? The minutes recently have been good, and I think they're just going to stay good because of AFCON. So yeah, I'd probably think about something like that as a wild card. Arthur Sudaria. Been looking forward to your stream. Thank you so much, my friend. VVD and thank you so much for the super chat too. Virgil van Dijk and KDH to Hinkapie and Sobo, but lack 0.3 million. Would you do Krupi to Marquis or Lacroix to Stev? Tough question. I probably would do Lacroix to Stev. If you kind of look at the... Although, having said that, maybe Lacroix to Stev doesn't work so well, because I think the beauty of Lacroix is actually he's a better auto sub in case Sobo gets suspended. So maybe I would just do the Krupi to Gu move, is how I would see it. Surely Saka only... Why would Saka play only 60 minutes? The problem that Arsenal have as a team, right? If we kind of look at... Let me just see if I can just show you the lineup that they had versus Club Brugge, right? So, can you guys see this? You can moderately see this. It's not the best view, but I apologize. But let's just do it anyways, right? So, Madueke started this game. Martinelli played the full match. So, Martinelli just played 90 minutes. Do you think it's actually likely that Martinelli will actually play good minutes this next match? I would assume that Trossard is out for this game again versus Wolves at home, right? Saka only played 20 minutes. Madueke played 70 minutes. Noneri is, not a serious pick. Jesus is sort of in and around the squad. Marino is in and around the squad, right? So you know that if Gyökeres starts, Marino and Jesus could come on for him. It's very likely that Rice plays, so you're going to see Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard, possibly. And maybe Eze would start on the left, kind of again, right? Something like that. I just think it's more likely, or, for example, you could see potentially one of the three midfielders being benched, and then Eze could play over, let's say, maybe an Odegaard, right? I don't see necessarily why Odegaard has to start this game, but it's possible that he starts. Apparently, Martinelli was holding his hamstring for this match, so I feel like it's actually possible that he could just come off the bench. And then with Madueke, I think he could start on the left again, and they could probably just sort of see out a full Saka game there. Just because Trossard is out still, I don't think Noneri comes on as a sub. I don't think Martinelli will get 90 minutes, so he's really only going to block someone for 20 minutes. Marino Jesus will probably only impinge on Gyökeres minutes. And then Eze, I'm not sure if he plays 90 minutes either. Like, I think, depending on whether he starts on the left or let's say in the midfield, he'll probably also only play like around 70 minutes, 75. So I think Saka plays at least 70 minutes. Like, if you go by even the general expectation of, like, if you just reversed everything and played, in theory, the A team here, Madueke still played 70 minutes, right? So Saka would still play 70 minutes at the bare minimum. But I think because that's a lot of minutes in Martinelli's legs, he's not going to really be a full threat for subs. And probably if you were going to let one of the attackers play 90 for this specific match, I think it would be Saka. So I think that's kind of why I'm not too concerned about his minutes at all. Richards to Hinkapie, I think that makes sense. Anyone who can go quite easy to Hinkapie, I'd probably go for it. Anish, thank you so much for being a member for 25 months, first of all. Hey, Fran. Goalkeeper Riot, defender Timber, VVD, Anderson, Chalobah, Dewsbury Hall, Foden, Wilson, Saka. Okay, you're playing Dewsbury Hall. Interesting. Haaland, Thiago. And you got Richards. You got Gakpo, one for each. Bro, I would personally just go Gakpo to Sobo and then just bench Dewsbury Hall. That's what I would do. I know it's using a free transfer, but... like, personally, I don't know. I don't really see too much from Dewsbury Hall in this match, and I think it's still worth using the free transfer. And you kind of have a bit more depth than other people. Like, you've got Dewsbury Hall and Welbeck, whereas other people, for example, if they had to deal with a Sobo suspension, don't have, let's say, a third forward to rotate in. So I think it's fine. Is using 4 free transfers to get Hinkapie, O'Reilly, Thiago, Sobo too aggressive? I don't really think so, because I think these are all good picks, generally speaking. And the only pick that you'd have to probably sell in the future is going to be Hinkapie. Start Burn or KDH. I would start Burn personally. Start Welbeck or King. I would start King because from what I could see in terms of like Twitter, people were saying that the bib theory within the Brighton training were suggesting that actually they were suggesting that Welbeck could be benched. And Boom was not in Morocco already. Wait, is he? Oh, are you just making that joke because I don't have him in my team? Yeah, fair. I don't know. I just didn't really want to risk it. And honestly, I think I can get away with Sobo for 2 weeks. Like, Sobo, I think I'd still feel comfortable owning Sobo for the next 2 games if he gets suspended for Wolves at home. That's the worst case scenario, and I don't think it hurts me too much because I think I can just move Sobo towards Acuna then. And maybe I should just go back to KDH. And if Sobo doesn't get suspended for Wolves at home, then we're laughing. Why is Hinkapie such a priority pick? Just because it's Arsenal versus Wolves at home, right? Hey, Kieran, hope you're well. Highly tempted to punt Madueke this week. Actually, that's a good question, Kieran. Like, do you think, you think Madueke starts left wing or like what's going on here? That's kind of what I was suggesting, right? With regards to the minutes. I think Madueke probably starts there, but I could be wrong. Who should be first on the bench, Guehi or Teo? I would say Guehi. I think Teo has a pretty good game on paper. My fear over not captaining Saka is the 5-0 versus Leeds where he got 6 points and came off before 60 minutes. Yeah, but he came off because of a sub though, like because he was injured. So like if your fear is that Saka is getting injured, then obviously that's not a minutes related thing. Fran, how long will Hincapié be there starting for Arsenal? I personally think he starts most of the games until Gabriel's back, right? Obviously they could play Saliba Timber, but I just generally think he will. Start Minte O'Reilly. I would start O'Reilly for sure. Captain Eze ahead of Haaland? Probably not. Is Dango going to AFCON? He definitely is. Madueke hates Wolves. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree with Martinelli being benched. And I do agree Eze can't play on the left. But like, do you think Eze just starts and like Odegaard's benched, Kieran? Something like that? I agree Trossard's not even going to be part of this game. I think it seems like he's actually re-injured, right? So I think he's just not playing. Yeah. I personally think it's Madueke left, Saka right, Gyökeres for a time up front. Maybe Odegaard gets benched because you can kind of just like enjoy this lineup and attack Wolves. What do you think? I can't comment on Mbeumo playing. I would say like 80% he plays, but for me the 80% chance wasn't really worth it, taking the risk on. You think Rice could be benched again? And yeah, that could actually work. I just think, I guess Rice had a full week of rest, and then obviously he wanted to play so bad, and Arteta was talking about it within the Champions League press conference, right? Like in terms of like he was sick, and like already like begging to play the Club Brugge game. But it's just like, I mean, if you can, yeah, I just think he's just going to want to play Wolves at home. He's probably going to force his way into that team somehow. Wait, Fran, which team do I support? Real Madrid. It's not looking good. Let's not talk about Real Madrid, all right? Let's move on. Haaland has so many more double-digit returns than Saka. It makes me nervous going against a robot. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It is Crystal Palace away. I guess the question is how many, like, on toughish games like that, like, I would rather just bet upwards, right? I mean, it's like, all Saka needs to do is farm a bad team, is kind of the point. Should I sell Gordon for Sobo this week? I'd probably wait, to be honest. Gordon's actually still pretty good this week. Rice back from illness, 8 p.m. Saturday evening in December doesn't seem ideal. But it seems like he's already been in training, right? Obviously, we don't have photos of it, but yeah. Semenyo or Sobo? Sobo for sure. Can we do a quick free hit draft? Actually, you can probably go back around 30-40 minutes. I probably went through the free hit around the time when Sohail sent a super chat. Yo, good evening, Yala. Thoughts on TC Saka? I kind of like it, but I still prefer Haaland personally. Next week. My defender is Hincapié, Timms, Virgil, Anderson, O'Reilly, and in midfield you got Anderson. I'd probably bench the midfield Anderson. Would you use your 4th and 5th transfer to sell Welbeck to you and upgrade King to Sobo/Rice? I probably wouldn't, because Welbeck will play next week, and I think that's pretty good upside. Semenyo or Rice to Bruno? Put Rice in 3 game weeks ago. Man, I probably would do Rice to Bruno just because this would give you Semenyo versus Burnley at home still. So I think on balance, if you, let's say, lost Rice versus Wolves, I think it's worse on paper. I think like as a good game compared to Semenyo versus Burnley at home. So I'd rather keep Semenyo for next game. I know it's not great, but yeah. Thiago captaincy shout. I know Olympian's doing it, but I will not be there. Pretty decent pick though. Rice starts today. I think he would, but you know, some people don't think he does. So let's see. Should I transfer Timber out for Hinkip? I really don't know what to say on this move because I just think it comes down to your auto sub first of all, and then second of all, it comes down to are you actually making any sort of additional advantages from your team with the money in the bank? Because it's still possible that Timber starts. But yeah, I think Norgard could easily just play. Majed, all the best, man. G1 Glory. Burn to O'Reilly for the last few transfer roll. I probably would roll this week, and then if you can still go O'Reilly next week, I would just go for it next week. FPL Rohit's nice to see you, my friend. My defense is Rias and SC, Virgil van Dijk, Van de Ven, Keane, Guehi. You've had to use 4 food transfer already to fix other issues. Should I use the final food transfer to do Van de Ven / Keane, 10 KPS / O'Reilly? Oof. You play Van de Ven, and who do Tottenham play this week? I honestly cannot remember. Is it Forest? Oh man, I probably would just. I'd probably just, because you're so tight on the free transfers, Rohit, I probably would just skip Hinkip, and I would just go O'Reilly next week with like 2 free transfers. Always gives you a little bit more flexibility, so I would just maybe just go O'Reilly next week for West Ham. I don't think Van de Ven's awful. Start Anderson, Nottingham, or Virgil? I would go Virgil. Would you start Senesi or KDH? Probably Senesi, because I think he's going to be like, you know, start or doesn't start. Start or isn't in the squad, sorry. Should I bet on a Man City clean sheet? I mean, I'm doing it, so. Rice or Bruno Fernandes captain? I would go Bruno, personally. You have Timber and Rice starting? I think Rice is fine. I don't know about Timber, personally. Bamiwa, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it, bro. Start Minter or Vandenberg? Vandenberg for me, for sure. Colin Sir Wilson, who to start? Like Harry Wilson? Definitely Wilson. Bro, lock in a bit. What do you mean? Who's a better TC? Saka this week or Holland next week? I think Holland. Start Cash or O'Reilly? I would probably start. I'd still start O'Reilly, I think. Am I crazy for starting Verbruggen over Dubravka? Not really, but obviously I would still go Dubravka personally. Have you not got a lot of money in the bank? Yeah, I don't. Should I do Senesi for O'Reilly? I think that's a pretty good move, but it is going to be painful losing Senesi for Burnley. My goat. Worth taking a risk on Thiago captain this week? I don't love it, personally. I think I would go Bruno captain over Thiago. Thiago's definitely good, but it is tough. I don't think Leeds are just that bad, honestly, at the end of the day. Lang Jai, how many, what's weeks do? I'm so confused. You thinking, how many weeks do I think Hinkip lasts? Probably, I would say if you are being pessimistic, only 2 game weeks. If you think you are being optimistic, I would say 4 game weeks, right? Because that's probably in line with the Gabriel timeline. And you never know how fast like people get back onto grass and stuff like that. Thank you so much for the super chat, TVR TKO. Bozenjanin? Yeah, sorry. Do let me know phonetically how to pronounce that if that can help. Waltemade and Marino for Bruno and Gu. I think that's worth a -4. Man, for a -4 though, I do think Bruno's really good long term. I probably wouldn't do it for -4. I'd probably just do it next week. That's rough. For a -4 is kind of where I have the issue with that one. I think I would just wait for next week. Not that next week is a particularly good Bruno game, you know, if I'm honest. Like, I think next week is actually a bad Bruno game. But because next week is kind of like not exactly a great Waltemade game anyways, I think I would just do it next week. And hopefully it won't cost you a hit. But if it's going to cost you a hit next week anyways, I guess go for it. Start Teo or Mukiele, definitely Teo. Bench Welbeck or Bruno G? I think bench Welbeck. Because it seems like Welbeck might not start. That's apparently the rumored kind of Brighton lineup that I've seen. So, I think... What is this? So, FPL Seagull on Twitter made a pretty interesting comment in terms of the bib theory within the Brighton training. He's suggesting that the lineup is going to be Verbruggen, Wiefer, Van Heck, Dunk, Kadioglu, Hinchelwood, Baliba, Minte, Gruda, Gomez, Jorginho, just based on the bib theory. So it seems like Welbeck could be benched, but let's see whether that's correct, right? Because bib theory is an interesting concept that apparently has worked really well for Brighton this season. How much in the bank with my team? 0.0. Keep Minte or get Sobo plus KDH or Bruno G plus KDH. I would get Sobo plus KDH personally. I do think Nketiah, but how many game weeks are we sure he'll play until Saliba comes back? I mean, the bigger question is whether Gabriel comes back, right? Because it's very likely he can just play alongside Saliba. You have Timber and Rice starting. Please rank my bench. Guehi, Gu, and Alderete. I'd probably do Guehi, then Alderete, then Gu, but it's not a great bench, obviously. Unfortunately. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Rice is a huge issue, but because I guess you have two threats, maybe Timber to Nketiah could make sense for yourself. Could Cherky or Marino be a nice alternative? I don't think Marino is a good alternative at all. I think Cherky could be. If you didn't use triple captain and don't want Ha next week, well, you have to go Saka this week then, I guess. I mean, what is the alternative? Bruno in Game Week 19? Yeah, that would be it, wouldn't it? Bruno versus Game Week 19. Who to have first on the bench? Rodon or Richards? I think I would have Rodon this week. It's pretty close, but I think I'd have Rodon. KDH or TL first bench? KDH for me. You're stuck on Timber to Nketiah. Not sure if Timber's out. Yeah, I think everyone has to just look at their first bench and sort of make a decision from that. Semenyo over Harry Wilson. Yeah, for sure, I would take that punt. If you can go Semenyo, then I would probably do it. Free hit, should I bet on Martinelli or Trossard? You should bet on none of them, because I think both of them won't start. I think it's actually pretty likely that they both won't start. Hi, Fran, new here. Love the channel. Who would you bench? Consa or Richards? I'd probably bench Richards, personally. I think Consa just has a really good game on paper. The clean sheet odds actually for Aston Villa are pretty good. And equally, I think the main thing with this Richards situation is obviously Richards has a higher chance of getting DEFCON, but he also has a higher chance of conceding more than 2 goals. So yeah. Based off recent form makes me think Wilson's a better choice. Yeah, but I mean, recent form is not an indicator of future form, right? When Semenyo was the highest point scorer in the game, in theory, if you used recent form, you would have never sold him because he would have just re-performed what he did. But that's not kind of how, things work. He still has Burnley at home. Man United away is actually a pretty good fixture because they're not a great defense. And he can still take pens, to be fair, on certain points of the game. So I feel like from that perspective, Semenyo is just a better pick. Better underlying data as well. But yeah, if you want to go Wilson for 3 weeks, I don't really mind that. It's just if you went Wilson, I guess the question would be, is there an advantage of you not using the Semenyo money and can use the Semenyo money somewhere else? Now that's probably a more interesting question. But if you just ask me outright, would I rather have Semenyo or Harry Wilson? I probably would just go Semenyo every time. Gu starts. Would you play him over Bruno G? I'm not sure about Gu starts. I would definitely play Bruno G over him. El Chivers, thank you so much, or Chivers. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Free at 16. Which 3? 1, Sanchez, Chalobah, Eze. Okay. 2, Raya, Anderson, Cunha. 3, Sanchez, MLS, Mbumo, or Cunha. 4, Sanchez, MLS, Ekitike, Mbumo, AFCON risk. Yeah, I think Mbumo, AFCON risk, I don't know. I'd probably take him out of the draft. It's unfortunate, but I think you have to do that. I'm not sure if Eze's minutes are perfect, so I probably quite like 2 in terms of Raya, Anderson, Cunha. I don't mind Sanchez, MLS, Ekitike as well, though. So I think 2 or 4 is probably what I'd go with. I personally think I would go with 2. Would you sell Pope to? Who would you sell Pope to? Probably Kelleher, just if I wanted to save some money. Honestly, what do you think of Henderson, Guehi, VVD, Timber, Senesi, Rodon? Who would you roll or use any transfer on? I'd probably use a transfer maybe getting out of... Oof. I mean, you could play Virgil van Dijk, Timber, Senesi, and Rodon's a pretty good auto sub. I don't think I think you can roll. If you really want to, I guess you could Timber to Hincapié to just make sure you don't have to deal with too much like auto sub risk with like Timber and Senesi both being in your team. But yeah, in terms of the start order, I kind of mentioned it, right? I would go Van Dijk first, then I'd go Timber first, then Van Dijk, because obviously Timber's like start or probably doesn't play. So I think, yeah, Timber, then Van Dijk, then Senesi, then Rodon, then Guehi in that order. Who would you prioritize getting, Sobo or Semenyo? I'd probably go Sobo. I think Semenyo's kind of a long-term, like he's a short-term punt, whereas Sobo could very well be a really good medium-term hold. Who should I have first bench? KDH, Minte, Estev? I would say Minte, then KDH, then Estev. It's pretty close, though. Maybe even Minte, Estev, then KDH. Thiago or Bruno as a captain? I'd probably go Bruno myself. You want to captain Rice, you have no Saka, but you have Bruno and Haaland. I mean, I prefer Bruno over Saka, but if you think Rice starts, then just go for Rice. Because Rice is fine. Rice competes well with Haaland as well. But my priority would be Bruno. And I think Rice and Haaland kind of interchangeable. Eze on a free hit. It's quite nice. But he probably still comes off a little bit early. Should I buy Sobo over Minte? Yeah, I would probably do it. Tio or Mukiele? I'd play Tio. Hi, friends. Emmanuel Cunha this week. I probably would go... If you can actually afford Cunha, I probably would go Cunha. Who would you sell Pope to, Fran? Kelleher. Timber or Minte? I'd play Timber first, obviously. The main thing with Cunha, I think, is he's probably a better long-term pick, generally speaking. Like, if I had money to go Cunha, I probably would have just gone Cunha within my team structure. Sobo versus Dango on a free hit. Probably go Sobo first. Who do I sell Mateta and Gakpo for? I'd probably go Sobo plus... Oh, that's kind of a tough one, right? Why can't you get Saka? You can't go Gu and then just play a defender? Why not Thiago captain? I mean, why Thiago captain? Is probably my question. I mean, Leeds aren't... They're not that bad as a defense, although they've given away a couple penalties. It's just that it is Brentford at the end of the day. Like, Brentford's not that amazing of an attacking team. Probably like top half attack, and then Leeds more bottom half defense. But I don't know. I mean, like, why would I not take the fixture gap between like Saka and Wolves, right, or Arsenal and Wolves? He's a decent captain, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'd probably even go Bruno over Thiago. Is Timber playing? I really couldn't tell you. Thank you, Badera. Wish you all the best as well. Tarkowski or Njai playing with the first bench for Timber injury? Probably Tarkowski. Keep Minte or get Sobo plus KDH or Bruno G plus KDH. I would go Sobo KDH. You've got Timber and Senesi in your team. Dewsbury, Hall, and Goodmanson as first subs. I think that's okay. If you really are worried, I'd probably just do a Timber to Hincapié move like many other people are doing. Still remember DMing you back on IG in 2021. Thanks for taking the time to reply. Appreciate it, James. Nice to see you around. Dr. Yazan Abdullah, how are you, my friend? Minter, Enzo out for Sobo. Oh, tough one. If you took one of them out, I guess you just have the would you play the other player? Does that make sense? Say you took Enzo out, would you play Sobo? If you took Minte out, would you play Enzo? Is that kind of how it works? Because I think I'd probably take Minte out, honestly. If you're gonna play Enzo as well. Can you check Discord? I could do, yeah. All right, back to chat. You private DM'd me. Are you a member on the channel? Could Timber just play minutes if he doesn't start? I mean, like, we're talking like if he comes off the bench. Well, the way I see it is, it's possible that Timber could come on for a small bit for White, but then they've got Sam in there as well, right? So I feel like no. I feel like Timber probably just starts or doesn't play. Because it's very unlikely that Norgard drops such a stinker that Timber needs to come on versus Wolves at home. Like, I just think, like, logically speaking, if you kind of look at the Club Brugge match, it's like, it probably is going to be like that, but less aggressive subs, you know? Sobo has lower XG than Elliot Anderson in the last 5, but how many access to points if he's played in the middle anyways? Yeah, but once again, like, last 5, like, you know, is that even a particularly helpful stat? The main sort of pro to Sobo anyways is, like, more set piece share, more pen share, and slightly better fixture run from an attacking perspective, I guess. But yeah, I agree. Like, Sobo has some, like, for example, versus West Ham, I think he had, what, like, 0 XGI, Sobo? So there's going to be games where he does nothing. So we just need to be, you know, accepting of that. FPL DV8, Richards, Minte out for Hinkapie and Sobo. Also not sure what to do with Waltemad. I mean, to me, Waltemad can be played this week, but if you're not going to play him, he's always just, you know, I'd rather just go Gu at that point in time. Is White a pick? Yeah, I think so, but then you probably have to ask yourself, like, I guess, basically the question to ask is, like, does Arteta play Saliba Timber or Saliba Hinkapie? Because that impacts White, right? Going forwards. Like, where Timber will positionally play. You definitely like last 5 for Solo because the formation changed, but agree. Yeah, I see what you mean, right? I agree, like, because, yeah, you can look at some of the games that Sobo's played recently, and it is not looking great. But then it's like, you know, he is on set pieces. He can drop a lot of loose balls for Van Dijk or whatever. And I guess role-wise, like the I guess like the pass map that I saw versus Inter Milan looked pretty enticing. Replace Waltemad with Thiago. Yeah, I think that's an easy move as well if you don't have Thiago, to be fair. Sorry, I wasn't actually thinking that could be a thing. Waltemad to Ekitike. I think that can be a pretty good pick. But also, like, I just don't really like spending that much money in the forward position this season because I just don't think Ekitike is that worth his price point necessarily. What to do with Doku? Probably keep him at this point. Like, he's still starting a lot of the matches. Not enough for Semenyo. Who do you recommend? Gotta consult my own cheat sheet there. I don't really want to say Rice just because he's, like, potentially, I don't know, touch and go. It's kind of weird. Like, the midfield landscape's pretty poor, pretty diabolical for this week. I mean, I guess you could 1 week punt on Dango, but, you know, that's not really going to make sense for a lot of people. Yeah, I think if I couldn't afford Semenyo, I'd probably just stay in my 4-4-2 structure, right, where I have Dewsbury Hall plus better defenders. Based on that, Hinkapie or O'Reilly. Hinkapie short term, O'Reilly if you don't plan on spending more transfers on the defense, I'd go O'Reilly. Can't afford Sobo, hold KDH. Yeah, hold KDH. Or even go Sobo over Semenyo, right? Like, I'd prioritize Sobo over Semenyo, and I'd probably just keep KDH if I didn't have the chance to do something like that. As a captain over Holland, you don't have Saka. Yeah, I'm not sure if I love as a captain, if I'm honest. Jimenez or Ekitike on free hit? Oh, well, that's a good question, actually. I probably would actually still prefer Jimenez just because of penalties. Wouldn't you go Sobo over Semenyo short term fixture wise, but longevity planning it's a sensible buy? Wouldn't go Sobo over Semenyo short term. Yeah, I agree with that. That's pretty much it. Ideally, Sobel just gets the yellow today. Yeah, I agree. I don't really care about him missing Tottenham away. Are you going Everton defender in a couple of weeks? Yeah, I'm going Everton defender. The thing is, right? Like, if let's say I don't like Cunha in a few weeks' time, then I can't move Semenyo to Cunha, right? Whereas if I do like Cunha, then I probably just do something like Lacroix to Keane if Keane's alive still and playing football, and Branthwaite's not a challenge to his minutes. And then I just do Semenyo to Cunha. But if I don't like Cunha, then I think I will actually just go back into the structure that I used to have. Um, no fear over Saka mine. What does that mean? Sorry. Can you explain captaincy again? I mean, like, I think Saka just has the best sort of fixture this week. Points projections, even like good minutes, as a justification just because of the rotation around the Champions League. So it's very hard to sort of believe that Saka's a bad pick for this game week from that perspective. So I quite like Saka as a captaincy. He's lower owned, and that's probably the only con for some managers who are risk averse. But that's it. Like, I mean, I tend to go against high owned captaincies if I feel like someone's better anyways. So yeah. Benching your 4.4 striker Van Heck. God, that guy has tilted me a lot. Although I've gotten some of the jam on fan team. O'Reilly or Anderson for benching, not buying. I would bench O'Reilly first. Thoughts on Forrest Zander? What does that even mean? Sorry, I don't really like Forrest. If we're talking about Nottingham Forest. Also, top 5k overall. Thanks to my vids. Thank you, Dara. Awesome. Congratulations as well. And good luck as well for the rest of the season. Bruno G to Cunha. I quite like that move. Mateta for Evan Nilsson. Oh, I don't really like either. I still don't think Evan Nilsson's a great pick, personally, especially with no pen share. You're good at triple captain Hincapie. Bro, fair enough. Do send me the screenshot after the haul. As a cheap midfielder option, is Dango Wilson better, or have you any? Yeah, I guess Wilson's better, right? Because, Dango might not play next few games. Paulinho or Dewsbury? You actually rate the Hincapie. Fair, man. We need that bullet header bad. Waltermat Hall? I don't really see it, but could be wrong. Odds of O'Reilly starting? I think close to 90%. I mean, why would O'Reilly not start? I just think people have a fundamental misunderstanding of like how important O'Reilly is to this team right now. The fact that he played Sunderland, the fact that he played Real Madrid, 90 minutes for both. Like that should just give you more confidence. But then people think, oh, this player played 90 minutes twice, he's getting subbed. I mean, that's so unlikely, right? It's like he's become an essential player for him. Just in the sense that, like, for example, like Bernardo at his age is playing so many minutes. It's because he's an essential player. So O'Reilly kind of is like that. Even Nunez to an extent, right? He's also just like, he kind of has everything, if that makes sense. Like, he can, play in the pockets. He is tall. He wins at piece duels. He is a good defender as well. Yeah, O'Reilly clean coming and running against 57-year-old Klein. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Also, I feel like Sarr is just he is generally world class. I do actually think so. It is a bit freaky. I think like the only thing I would say is that like his ball striking still needs a little bit of work, like in front of goal. I know he scored a goal versus Real Madrid, but that literally was a tap in. But it's more just like, since he's so good, like that additional level, I don't know if he can hit it as well. But he might be able to, just in terms of like, because he gets into really good goal scoring positions in open play as well. It's just like, does he have a finish added to that? I'm pretty sure he hit the post for us too. Anyways, just a freaky player. Hey, Fran, you've got Mbeumo and Timber, one free transfer left. Would you replace one of them? Rodon, Senesi, you. Ooh. I'd probably just replace, because you've got pretty good defensive auto subs. I would maybe consider Mbeumo out. It is very risky in the sense that this is a really good Mbeumo game, but I feel like you won't regret selling Mbeumo anyways, because you would have to have done it. But if you're super confident he's going to play and you feel like the Cameroonian FA aren't going to ruin anything, then yeah, you can just keep him. Do I need to replace Dan Burn? Not for this week, I think. This is a really good week for Dan Burn. Although I tend to sometimes update my moves on Twitter as well. So if you guys haven't followed me on Twitter, just feel free to do that. Just because I think sometimes I do tend to post a little bit more like in the middle of the week on Twitter. Whereas obviously like for YouTube videos, it's like I can't make an emergency video, like I'm changing my move, that sort of thing. Enzo to Sobo worth it. I think it's a bit wavy, I guess this week, but I think it's a good move. Considering that, for example, let's say if Sobo got suspended, you're kind of also pricing in poor Enzo fixtures in the future. Timber starts, I'm not sure about that, honestly. It seems like a lot of the predicted lineups have Timber benched. DeKuyper, cheap defender and plays attack opinion. I mean, Matoma's back, right? So that's kind of ruined DeKuyper. Plus, he's first Liverpool, so I don't think you really want him for this match, necessarily. Triple captain Sock, I think, makes sense. FPL Tony, I see around. Bench Lacroix, Senesi. I probably would bench Lacroix, personally. I just think Senesi actually has a higher chance of DEFCON, and the clean sheet odds are very similar, so I'd go Senesi. Lacroix, KDH. I'd probably pay KDH here. Triple captain Saka. I think you can go this week. It's a pretty good one. You still have Bruno down the line. You still have Haaland as well next week. I personally would go Haaland versus West Ham, but if you don't want to do that, then that's fine. Start Konsa, Virgil. Virgil for sure. Hey Fran, would you take Estevao or Iwobi out for Saka, considering you'd have to spend a transfer next week to take Iwobi out anyways for a live mid? I would take Estevao out, personally. Enzo or KDH? What does that mean? Like in terms of starting? I would definitely start Enzo. Would you upgrade Enzo to Bruno, but downgrade Virgil to Vandenberg? I would do Enzo to Bruno, yeah. And Virgil to Vandenberg, I think Bruno is a better hold in your team and a better upgrade than like what Virgil can provide versus Vandenberg. Like the value that Virgil has over Vandenberg is almost negligible compared to what the upgrade of Bruno versus Enzo is, I would say. Dewsbury Hall for Harry Wilson, Senesi for Esteve. I don't think that's really worth it. I feel like I would just hold KDH and Senesi. FPL Citizen says Rice is not in the squad. Who even is FPL Citizen? I've generally never heard of him in my life. Who's FPL Citizen? Why are people selling Semenyo against a defense consisting of Euro, Shaw, and Heaven? I mean, Euro's not even starting nowadays, right? Oh, are you assuming that Mazraoui's not playing? Fair. Antonio, thank you so much for joining as a member of the channel. Welcome to Captain. If anyone who's joined as a member or hasn't already, you can connect Discord to YouTube, and that should automatically authorize you to get the private chat membership on the Discord channel. But otherwise, DM me and we can sort it out. Who do you like as an Mbeumo replacement? You like Semenyo first to Cunha when Man United play Wolves? Yeah, that's my plan as well. I was basically going to do Mbeumo to Semenyo next week if I didn't feel like Mbeumo was a threat for this week, and then just go Cunha in 2 weeks' time. But now I've just gone Semenyo a bit earlier to kind of, I guess, give myself a security blanket, if that makes sense. Hey Fran, is it worth bringing in Sobo this week and play him over Raul/Rogers or save the transfer? I think it is worth bringing in Sobo this week, yeah. I don't really like Rogers, so I would play Raul and Sobo. Yeah, I'm not hugely fond of Rogers as a pick. It is a good Rogers fixture. Man, I guess if you wanted to play Raul Rogers, then you have them already. Maybe just keep them. But personally, I almost think that Rogers is a good transfer out for Rogers. Like, I just don't really like Rogers as a pick. Because the thing is, like, Sobo might have really poor underlying stats, and so does Rogers. And both of them, I guess, have long shot potential. But at the end of the day, Sobo has pen share, and he has set piece share. Whereas Rogers doesn't have too much of that. So, like, long term, I think Sobo is just far clear. Free hit fourth mid to add to Saka, Bruno, Foden. Dango. Or Sobo. FPL Citizens. Not sure if he's reliable. Let me have a look. Okay. FPL Citizens. Alright. It's not really working, but let's see who this guy is. Why can't I find this guy? The way you've spelt it, like, I can't find him. Either way, I don't think any sort of serious source has Rice out. Like, you'd almost expect that a journalist would have to have at least corroborated that. I don't see any news on Rice. Rank to start: Minte, Shaka, Hartman, Guehi. I think Jaka, Minte, Hartman, Guehi is literally probably how I would have it. It's pretty close though. I guess it depends on how you rate Granite Shaka as a pick. But this is a pretty good fixture for him. I think it's like ironically one of his best games coming up. He is on I guess the yellow card tightrope as well. Leads at home probably better, but still. I think. I mean, maybe you just go Minte anyways, to be fair, because Minte's just Minte's Minte. Enjoy your Sobo pen jam, Polar Dew. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think Salah's benched again. That's kind of what most people are. I mean, I've literally spelt citizens in the exact way that you've spelt it. Yeah, there's literally no account. Or or maybe I've actually blocked this person and that's why I can't see it. It's possible that I've actually blocked the account. Citizens TM. Okay, that's the thing. Because obviously Twitter's algorithm is just terrible. Welbeck is on the bench today. He says Arsenal lineup start versus Wolves. I mean, who is this guy? He said Salah starts tomorrow, which I don't even think is true. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not going to put any authority in this account, I would say. Yeah, never heard of this guy before, so. Would you start Waltmart or Szoboszlai? Szoboszlai for sure. Bench Elliot Anderson or Nico O'Reilly? Anderson. Marku in the Hinkipia cartel. I mean, everyone's going Hinkipia just because there's just so much expected points value from him. Minte or Welbeck start? Definitely Minte. It seems like Welbeck's benched. What do you think Ekitike is a pick? I don't love him, but I do like him for a free hit. It's just an easy buy. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, if you have like 2 to 3 free transfers, you know, like the whole point of it is you can go short-term punts. Like a lot of people are like, oh, this is not a good long-term move. Well, I'm not trying to make a long-term move, basically, is how I would respond to it. Skelly on the free hit is interesting. I mean, Hinkipia is good on the free hit as well. Would you lose all your transfers to bring in Saka and you have Rice? No, I probably wouldn't. I don't think it's worth like using 3 to 4 free transfers, if that's what you're saying. Should I use my 5th transfer to get Hinkipia for Timber? I really can't advise on that. I think it just comes down to your first bench and like how impacted you would be by Timber, you know, not playing, for example. If Timber starts, does Ben White get benched? I don't think so. I think Norgard just gets benched, right? So they should just play like White and like White, Timber, Hinkipia. Would you start Wilson or Raul? I would start Raul just because of penalties. Am I burning a transfer if you free hit this week? No, well, you technically are, but you burn a transfer naturally anyways when you free hit, right? So for example, let's say you had 3 free transfers and you free hit, you'd still have 3 free transfers next week. So you're not burning anything, actually. It's actually it makes sense. Let's just say that. Use your 2/3 transfers to set up your team. Take the Hinkipia punt for the clean if you can't. Seems to be the general consensus. I agree, yeah. Like FPL is a game where if you can get a defender this week who's like 2 expected points better than your other defender, it is worth the free transfer, generally speaking, right? And if he continues to start, then even better. Like your chat a ton. Great job. Lots of analysis. Thank you so much. But yeah, as I said, if you guys haven't watched other videos as well in the past, I do really recommend watching the cheat sheet. It is a video series that I'm very proud of. And if you're here and you're new and you're enjoying the chat as well, do feel free to like, do feel free to subscribe. Really does help support. Is there any chance of Gu starting? Absolutely, there's a chance of Gu starting. I mean, he wasn't really even involved in Champions League, so it's possible. Can you take a quick look at the Discord private chat? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lucas, personally, I would actually just free hit in your personal context, right? A couple of things, right? If I look at your team and I think you don't own Saka right now, I would, and you've already taken the Mbeumo price drop, I would just go, go for the free hit this week that makes your team best. You don't even need to go Hinkipia next week, right? Because you don't need to own him anymore because he's a short-term pick. So if you free hit, you save all your transfers again. You have the 5 free transfers for next week. I would probably just ship Mbumo, ship Ultimad, ship maybe another defender that you need to just get the best defense possible for next week, and that's your free transfers done. Yeah, that's pretty much how I'd see it. Hey, Ponchan, nice to see you around, my friend. Member for 16 months, appreciate that, bro. Hope you're doing well, FPL-wise as well. All true, Dream Brother, but it's more on the long term that O'Reilly, for example, might be more nailed over Hinkapie. Yeah, like O'Reilly, you can guarantee is going to be nailed, right? Even let's say, like, for example, the thing with O'Reilly that's quite scary is, like, nothing should really change post AFCON. Like, he should continue to start almost all the games. You're recovering? That's good to hear. Sorry about the stinker, though. Hi, Fran. Start 2, which of Welbeck, James, Jack, O'Reilly? I'd start James for sure. I'd start O'Reilly, I think, and I'd probably bench Xhaka, then Welbeck in that order. If Saka doesn't perform this week, is it over for him? The thing is, like, sure, but, like, who are you getting rid of him for, I guess is the question. I guess you could go Saka to Semenyo next week. That's something that a lot of people are considering, right? Damsgaard punt for 2 weeks. I just prefer Dango. But yeah, if it's for 2 weeks, you can't do that, right? I'd probably actually go Wilson over Damsgaard. Yo, Fran, my team is Raya Dubravka. Sorry, Christine, you're spamming the chat a bit too much. Thank you, Jay Watts, coming in clutch for the moderation. Triple captain weeks. I mean, Bruno versus Wolves at home, game week 19. Haaland as well next week. Saka this week. I think these are all good picks. Hi, Fran. Shall I start Minte or Richards? Probably Minte. Thiago's captain. I'm not super fond of it. I kind of think that's kind of level with Haaland in my expectations. I probably would have Bruno over him. Personally, to free up funds for Ekitike, very big on him. Okay, fair enough. Sobo for Saka. Interesting. Fair enough. I mean, it is a pretty good run for Liverpool. Would you change Timber for Hinkapie? I wouldn't, but I guess if you have a bad auto sub, I'd probably do it. Why Salah such a priority already this game week? I mean, we're not thinking that Salah starts. I think most of us think he's benched. Isak seems to be out, which kind of increases pen share in the short term. So the fact that it's a home game is a pretty good game for Sobo. Yeah, Liverpool have been not great. I agree with that. But I don't know. It's like, you know, if I was to bet on Liverpool doing half decent, at least just being able to score goals, like I think that's possible, right? So from a Sobo perspective, it's like he can be involved, like just very much like the Leeds game in a sense. And then, of course, additional pen share, additional set piece share when Gakpo and Salah are both out of the team. Thank you for the great content. Appreciate that, Cornelius. Why is everyone in Hinkapie when the chances are that Timber starts? I guess you want the full guarantee, right? Because it's like, yes, of course, there are chances that Timber starts, but I think it's the idea that just you own someone who's more expensive that could still, for example, you know, not be a part of the squad, and you miss Wolves at home, and at the same time, I guess the money back from Timber to Hinkapie probably helps you make important moves. Like, you know, some people can go Sobo from, I don't know, a 5 mil mid. You're not crazy bullish on Sobo from an FPL perspective. Yeah, look, I get the argument, right? I think the models probably are overrating Sobo a touch, but it's like, at the end of the day, he is kind of like a baby Bruno, but probably, you know, not as prolific in open play, just in the sense that if he was to take almost all the set pieces, there's value there. If he's to take penalties like half the time, there's value there. Yeah. Sobo has terrible XGI. Trini, is that a joke about Mbumo? Not even close. I think that's an Mbumo joke, so I'll take that gladly. Bench Dewsbury, Holla Reinders. I'd bench. It's a good question actually, because I mean, Reinders didn't even play versus us, right? I'd probably actually bench KDH and play Reinders, and maybe be a bit greedy, hope that Reinders starts. It is tough to see that, but I guess it could be a Bernardo benching. How about Cash? He's a pretty good pick, but after this week, not sure if I totally love him. We've not scored a set piece. Yeah, but like not scoring a set piece all season. Yeah, in the league, right? In the Premier League, but you've scored like set pieces in the Champions League. And it's like, you look at the chances, you have built set piece chances. Like Virgil could have scored versus Leeds, he just didn't. But it's like, I don't know, that's not to me, like, I don't use that as some sort of predictive measure, right? So I think that's kind of the thing. And he has scored direct free, like, set pieces. So that technically is a set piece goal, just saying. Enzo out as a in. I don't really love that move. I think Enzo's holdable this week. Would you have Foden on a free hit? Probably, yeah. Just about. I did go through like what I would run through on my free hit probably an hour and a half ago. I'm not sure. You can definitely scroll back to a point where I'm messing around with my team, and that's probably when I was actually looking at. Well, first of all, I did look at a wildcard for a bit, but there was a section of the stream where I actually went through the free hit. But I think, yeah, players like Dango are interesting on the free hit for sure. Cunha, even if you don't want to go Foden. Is Bruno really a better captain than Haaland this week if you don't have Saka? I personally think so, yes. Honestly, though, if we consider the shift Doc and Riley could put against Klein, why are we not capping Haaland for the rebound tap-ins? I guess it's because, I mean, Klein's not that bad of a defender, right? But yeah, the idea of Doku versus Klein is kind of funny. I will have to say that. But that's what the three center backs are for, right? Start one: Tarkowski, Senesi, Richards. I think Senesi, then Tarkowski, then Richards is the order that I have it. Someone check Klein's age. What, it's like 34, right? I've already checked it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Should we just check the age of the right back every game to see like how Haaland holds? Because I'm pretty sure Kenny Tete is 25 and Haaland just dropped the bomb on me without Doku doing anything as well. Just saying. Hi, Fran. How are you? Saka TC? I prefer Haaland next week. Fran, which week do you think is best to triple captain? Yeah, Haaland next week versus West Ham, I would say. Bruno versus Wolves at home, Game Week 19 is pretty interesting, though. I will say that. Thoughts on upgrading Rodon to Anderson / O'Reilly for my third 3 transfer? Also have Richards and Keane in your defense. Yeah, I actually like the O'Reilly move. I think that's fine. I'm down for that. You need to get rid of Van Dijk. I mean, I got rid of Van Dijk, but I don't think I'm tired of him. Like, it was honestly a 50-50 me keeping Van Dijk for this whole run. And I might revisit Van Dijk in Game Week 18, you know? Like, I'm not closing my eye to that. There's just so many good defenders around 18/19 where I feel like, okay, even though I don't have Virgil van Dijk for Wolves at home, like, does it matter that much at the end of the day? You know, I can go Gabriel on 19 if he's alive. I can go Tarkowski on 18 if he, like, as long as he's playing football. So, you know, what's the worry? And equally, if Gabriel's not that fit, like, I will still own Hinkapie for those types of fixtures. From 18, would you go Tarkowski or Keane? It just depends on Branthwaite and how he sort of is able to maybe reinsert himself back into the starting lineup and whether we have any news about it. You know, so if it seems like Branthwaite just sits the bench and holds bench, then maybe I'll go Keane. You don't blame the VVD sell. You did it with Tark looking to revisit 18. Yeah, fair. You also own Virgil at 6.0. Yeah. Cashed out at the peak. Let's just say that. I mean, at the same time, when you look at my team now, Semenyo's going to drop in price tonight. Dewsbury Hall's going to rise, so I would have lost the 0.2 anyways. But I think that it's just a structural thing where I think the 3-5-2 structure is generally a little bit better for the next few game weeks. And potentially I could just persist with the structure. So say Sobo doesn't get suspended for Wolves at home, it's very likely that I persist in the structure and I go Semenyo into Cunha in Game Week 18. And on top of that, I probably also just do an additional move. Like, for example, I can do Hinkapie on 18 to, you know, Tarkowski or something like that, or even just go Keane if Keane looks like a really good pick still. I'm not even opposed to just going Diogo Dalot. In a few weeks' time, I actually generally think I might consider it. Semenyo should rise, hopefully, right? Yeah, I think he can just pick that money back up. Whereas obviously with Dewsbury Hall, it's like, you know, like buying back Dewsbury Hall at 5.3 million. I'm not going to be opposed to that. Like, he is a good pick. If I have to go back there. Did I bench boost? Yeah, I bench boosted a long time ago. Wasn't a great bench boost, but Senesi kind of saved it, so that was nice. Any thoughts on Virgil to Ben White? You already have Hinkapie. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it. You know, if you have Virgil, I would just keep him. Bench Waltemart or KDH? I would bench KDH for sure. When to use bench boost? It depends on your team. I kind of need to know your team. Is it worth having Mbumo for this week? On a free hit, sure. As a transfer, no. I mean, I sold Mbeumo this week because I just didn't want to deal with the KDH auto sub, basically. So who's the best buy? Anderson, O'Reilly? O'Reilly for sure. Who to start? Sobo over one of Wilson. Like, the thing is, O'Reilly should be starting in the next 5 to 6 fixtures, and you're good enough. You're good to go. Like, he will get a nuclear hull once, and if he doesn't, I'll be shocked. Is it worth selling Senesi, leaving 0 free transfers? I don't think it's worth selling it at all, because you can get Senesi versus Burnley at home next week, which I think is hugely advantageous. When would you use bench boost? If I have the team that I have, man, I'd probably consider bench boosting this week, or next week at least. Because next week is a bad Dubravka week, but next week is a much better Crystal Palace week. So maybe I would probably bench boost next week, for the sake of Dubravka. Yeah, I'd probably do that. I'd probably bench boost next week, yeah. If I look at my team, it's like even Krupi Jr., like 10 minutes versus Burnley, why not? Send it. Sir, would you do Waltema to Raul? Yeah, I probably would consider it. And Mbeumo doesn't score at home anyway. I mean, I don't really believe that, but I'm sure he can hurt me. Timber to Hincapié to play bench boost. I think it's probably worth it. If you still have a lot of free transfers banked, would you not put Krupi Jr. ahead of 2 Palace defenders? No, because Krupi Jr. is not even playing minutes right now. Like 10 minutes of Krupi Jr. is probably not worth it. Put Alexei, would you start Sobo or one of Wilson or Raul? I'd start Sobo for sure over Wilson. I think I'd play Raul over Wilson. Just about. Hey, Fran, loved your free hit video, but have some decisions you're not sure on your free hit. Leno plus Anderson or Sanchez plus Cucurella. Foden or Mbeumo. Enzo Raul. Should I put MLS and White? I think MLS and White is fine. I think Hincapié is good as well. Like 2 out of 3 is like any of them, whatever you want is best, right? Because also I acknowledge that MLS and White are cheaper. As far as Enzo, I'd probably drop Enzo now. I'd probably back double Fulham, from a personal perspective, just because, narratives and stuff like Caicedo and stuff. I think I'd probably go Foden at this point with the Mbeumo uncertainty with the AFCON news, It doesn't feel so appealing now that it seems like there's if let's say that there's even a 10 or 20% chance that Mbeumo could, not be allowed to play that Bournemouth game. That's a huge problem, right? Prioritize bringing in an Arsenal defender, Bruno. I would still say Bruno. Timber to Vandenberg and Semenyo to Saka. That seems pretty fun. But then I guess, what are you going to keep Saka perpetually? Have a good game week. You too as well. So yeah, nice to have time to watch your stream. Yeah, it's nice that there's a bit of a later deadline, right? So obviously it's a bit easier for people to manage their moves and stuff like that. I mean, we're gonna get the Arsenal lineups, right? Oh, we won't actually. Sorry. Why am I being so silly? Why Semenyo? I want him for Burnley at home. The moustache is glorious. Nah, it's terrible. I need a shave, but I'm lazy. What do you want me to do? Start KDH or Wilson? Wilson for sure. I mean, if you own Wilson and you're not playing him versus Burnley away, there's probably questions that need to be asked. Why Semenyo? Want him for United anyway? Yeah, true. I think in a world where, like, this week it was kind of like, do I keep Mbeumo or Virgil, both players who are going to drop, and one player who might not play, which would give me KDH, or do I just go Semenyo and Sobo, who I both like, generally speaking? And I kind of think it's a side grade, but long term, like, Sobo could pan out a lot more in terms of value. Any collabs planned with other creators? I mean, suggest a couple that you'd like me to collaborate with. I mean, I've done some videos where I've gone into like some slightly smaller channels, but I haven't really done any big collabs with like larger content creators. Other than FPL Mate, obviously, Dan's wonderful. I still haven't bench boosted. Should I go for Mark Gu? You'll have to ask Harry for that one. Should I go for Mark Gu now and transfer him out to bench boost? Man, I just... yeah, fine, if you want to. Mark Gu is like a half-decent bench boost this week, because I guess he could probably play decent minutes. Do you think Timber's a high risk? I think it's actually pretty likely that he doesn't play, personally. I'm not doing this to kind of like, rile up Timber owners. I just think it is tricky. I think like this is a very, like, honestly, Wolves at home are so bad that really, as a manager too, like, you probably think I could play Norgard versus this team. Any plans to shift to triple Everton? Absolutely. Not triple Everton defense, but I definitely have plans to shift towards maybe double Everton in Game Week 18. Start Rice or KDH? Definitely Rice, because I feel like I just don't really believe that Rice is going to be on the bench. I feel like he's probably going to start if he's fit for the game. Honestly, whoever box crash versus Wolves holes. I mean, do you even need to crash the box? Like they literally let you like run in behind like willy nilly. Although they're probably not going to set up like that versus Arsenal. I guess I'll use that free transfer to Timber to. I think the more free transfer you have in the bank, the better the Timber to Hinkapia move is. Unfortunately, I honestly like Mbumo and Cunha. Like I guess if they had the shooting boots on, like for that match, there's probably 2 more goals there, for both players. And Bruno probably could have had 4 to 5 assists. Like I think I remember even a Dallo chance where I was just like, "What are you doing?" I honestly think Saka can get DEFCON here via recoveries. The weird thing is like, what happens is Saka's not very good at winning duels, so it's just like he just jumps into things and suddenly like that's DEFCON, right? One last question: would you first bench Rodon and Minte? Probably Minte. Mbumo to Saka and Gakpo to Semenyo. I think that those are fine moves. I quite like that actually. Wildcard now, Tarkowski plus Anderson plus Estev, or Anderson plus Van Heck plus Vandenberg. I prefer Tarkowski plus Anderson plus Estev because Tarkowski I think is essential. I wouldn't say essential, but he's close to essential in 2 weeks' time. Especially if let's say Keane is gone, right? Hey, other Fran. I missed your question. I probably forgot your question, so happy to see you send it again. Sobo risers. Sobo owners rise up. Nice to see you, Philip. Yeah, Sobo rising again. You've got KDH, but can't afford Sobo or Cunha. Can I consider Wilson? Yeah, but like, do you need to move out KDH, I guess, this week if you can't afford Sobo or Cunha? Like, I don't know if that's really worth a free transfer. You've seen him get 2/3 off a singular scrappy duel. That's the thing, right? It's like you get into a duel, like you don't really get the ball. You get into the duel again, and you still don't get the ball. And then you I don't know, maybe like you foul the player, or let's say like someone's actually trying to defend you. They get the ball, you get the ball back. Like those are interactions where people get DEFCON for no reason. So for example, like when Kukurea, let's say, clamps Saka, like most of the time that's actually Saka somehow, maybe like he loses the ball momentarily and I don't know, that's a recovery or something. It's kind of silly, but it does work out nicely. If you're, I guess, like within some games, like Saka is sort of the main threat in terms of like, can we pass this guy? And he's like someone who can take on players and make space. Whereas like Madueke tends to actually beat his man straight up sometimes. And people, I think that their way of actually dueling Saka is just lunging in early, right? Just committing to a foul, basically. Do I do Timber to Hinkapia? I think it's a pretty good move, guys. Generally, for most people. My only issue with basically the Timber to Hinkapia move is like if you have a good auto sub, I probably wouldn't consider it. It is tricky though. The thing with Wolves is they love the Kukurea tackles. Yeah, we'll see. Are you locked in with captaincy? No, I'm not. I don't do last minute changes like that. I mean, if I was gonna do a last minute change, I'd probably tell you. You're currently 4K in the world and 48 in India. Should I bench Minte or Doku? I'd probably bench Minte. Hey, friend, I'm still not sure. Rodon or Senesi first bench. I probably would go Senesi first bench. Ekitike or Watkins in the free hit. I would go Ekitike. Is KDH a good enough auto sub for that? I think he's okay. But I think I would probably just, like, what I would ask myself is, if I went Timber to Hinkapia, can I actually make some really good moves? So, for example, can I make some good moves to improve my team? Like, maybe a midfield upgrade or, some other defensive upgrade somewhere, or even a forward upgrade if it has to be done. I feel like if you can't do that, then that's probably where I'd consider not, for example, making the move. Because, yeah, I think you have a decent auto sub, and there's a still pretty high chance that, Timber can play. So, yeah, up to you. We just can't really call it. Because I think this is the one fixture in the league where you could probably say, like, even from an Arteta perspective, it's like he can kind of disrespect this team. So, for example, when you see, like, some of the Champions League lineups, right, you tend to see, like, Arteta just play a very, very weak team at times, or even, like, let's say when you look at the Bayern lineup, he goes Miles Lewis-Skelly on the left, and he goes, I think he benched Hinkapia that game, but I can't remember who he started ahead of him. He probably played Timber Saliba, or no, he played Mosquera Saliba, right? So I feel like he does tend to rotate players a bit more in Champions League, and this is one of the few Premier League games where I think, like, sometimes you'll see it with Pep too, where it's like he will play a slightly weaker team versus like maybe a last season's Leicester or a last season's Southampton, because he does see a genuine opportunity for it. Whereas obviously this season Sunderland, it's like you don't see Pep rotating because he probably actually respects the fact that Sunderland have actually gotten good results versus Arsenal and good results versus Liverpool, and suddenly it doesn't make that much sense. So for me, like, I kind of tend to see minutes like that, and this is a very odd week. Hinkapia fouled in the box for a Saka penalty after a relatively quiet game. Fair enough. I bought 2 players from 4 yellows this week. Follow for more tips. So Collins and Sobo. Don't want Timber to enter and get 1 point. That's true. That could happen as well. I feel like it's a bit unlikely. Like if Norgard's fit to play, the only situation where Timber, I guess, comes on is probably if, let's say, White doesn't play the full match and then Salmon doesn't come in. I do feel like Gyok can get a start here. Yeah, he can, but he's also pretty prone to getting an early sub too. You know, Jesus is around. Marino probably is going to get benched for this game because I don't really see Marino starting this match. So if Gyok starts, then, you know, you've got 2 players who can probably clamor for the bench spot. Phil Collins' son bagging a race this weekend. Who's my free hit goalkeeper? Probably Leno, but I don't mind going Sanchez either. I think both are very good. I would just choose to back one defense, right? So let's say you back Fulham with Anderson, I would back Leno. If you back, let's say, Cucurella as a pick and you go for Cucurella, I would just back Sanchez. So whoever kind of is compatible with your team and you're good to bank on a clean sheet from. Chukwueze or Dewsbury Hall. Chukwueze. Jesus is around. Yeah, he already is. He subbed on in the Champions League. He is around for Christmas. That is true. Does Mbuma play? We have no idea. I sold Mbuma because I just don't want to deal with the 10-20% risk that suddenly he's not playing. He's more than likely going to play. But I just didn't want to run that risk. What do you think about Klein? I don't have any thoughts about Klein. I guess I'd like to see if he's actually pretty good at DEFCON because he had some decent DEFCON in the previous match. But I'd like to see, if he's good at DEFCON, maybe he's worth a transfer. Right now, I just don't think I have the comfort around it. Timber might play and get 1 point as a sub. Yeah, go Hinkapie then. Timber 10-point incoming for sure. How does the defender get 10 points? So what do? You do clean sheet, you do assist, and what, you get 1 bonus point? Or do you think he's actually, he's I don't know, maybe it's like, you know, DEFCON plus 2 bonus points, right? Is that another way around it? I mean, no one's benching Timber, right? People are just moving Timber to Hinkapie, which I think is perfectly fine. Do you think Krupi will play? Not as a starter. I don't think he starts. Also, you have to remember that what's his face? Enes Unal is back in the team. So actually, I think that reduces Krupi's minutes as well. It's not ideal, but I think you have to kind of be open to that reality. Right, so that's, bit of a dampener there. As a captain pun, I'm not sure I love it. Will Timber be starting? No clue. Generally, no clue. Thanks for the advice today. Best of luck to you. Yeah, good luck, Lucas. I actually like the idea of just going Sakhalin for yet. CS plus 90 min plus DEFCON plus 2 bonus, Anderson style. Yeah, that would actually require Arsenal to be extremely tame in terms of attack, right? Like, what happened in that game where Timber had to get DEFCON as well? Chalobah or Vandenberg on a free hit? Probably Chalobah. Rice or Sobo if you had only 2 Arsenal players? I'd probably still go Sobo. KDH or Wilson? I'd go Wilson this week. How many game weeks are we expecting Hinkapie to start? I would say minimum 2. But after that, it's you know, I think, you should be open to the idea that he doesn't start as soon as Gabriel's back. I'm not so worried about Saliba per se. Yeah, more so worried about, you know, what happens if Gabriel's back. I tend to think Hinkapie should play most of the league minutes, and like, he doesn't, for example, force in Timber plus Saliba. Is Haaland captain terrible? No, it's not at all. Your team is too good now. Have to bench O'Reilly. I mean, who are you benching O'Reilly, Semenyo, Timber for? Or Anderson? I'm kind of confused. Start VVD or O'Reilly? I think I'd still start Virgil van Dijk. Enzo or Sobo for just this week? Probably Sobo, with the additional pen share. Salah back in the squad is nice, but then Isak out of the squad is also nice. Reinders starting. I think there's a decent chance for Reinders to start because he didn't start in the Champions League, and I think Bernardo probably could get a rest. But yeah, I don't think Reinders is like first choice at all right now, so that's a problem. Feel like Gab is going to be out longer with Arteta's hearts. It's possible. He's not going to be back today. Because the thing is, like, reporters still report on, like, Gabriel being in training and stuff like that, right? And, you know, Arsenal's goals are spread, but if Brentford scores 3, you can bet Thiago has 2, and they have scored 3 in each of their last 3 home games, and Leeds has conceded 3 in each of their last 3 away. Okay. Well, I am going to be making sure that I watch every single Leeds conceding 3 games for the rest of for the season away, and Brentford scoring 3 in the remaining fixtures of their season at home. But I don't personally believe that theory. Szoboszlai pen goal today is locked in. I hope so. Timber, we don't know if he's starting, honestly. I would probably suggest that he's not, because they have the opportunity to play Norgard, I guess. Raul or Wilson on free hit? I'd probably go Raul. I do like a pen taker. Oh, I wouldn't say Tio's not good at football, but I think he's like the worst, best player in the league, if that makes sense. Like, he's just an honest worker, you know? Oh, man, if Collins actually hauled in free at 13, I would actually have loved that day so much. Rice versus Timber's third Arsenal spot. I mean, they're both kind of diabolical with the... I'd probably go Rice at this point. Jaka for Reinders. I'd probably go Anton Stack over Reinders. Do you think White and MLS are starting? Yeah, I think so. Any news of Reece James starts? Not really, but I kind of do expect him to start. Because Caicedo being out kind of forces him to play as well, like in a sense. What do you think of Ben White? I quite like him, but more so from a free hit. I think it's kind of like you're betting on Ben White starting as being like the perpetual starter, or you're betting on like Hincapie being the perpetual starter for the short term. And I think it's more likely that Hincapie starts just because of Gab being out. But of course, like if let's say like, I don't know, Arteta's first choice suddenly become Saliba and Timber, then there's a problem there. You started with Collins this season, generally nearly scores twice, fouled in the box, gets 9 DC, and then booked at 87. Fair play. Yeah, I mean, Vandenberg's missed a lot of chances too, though, right? From that perspective. Is Minty a transfer out? I think he's a transfer out if you can go Sobo. Otherwise, I think he's a pretty good hold for next week. Dubravka or Henderson? I would play Dubravka. Reece James played 90 minutes midweek, though. I mean, I think he's more likely to get a start and get subbed off early. But, like, I also think, yeah, I mean, maybe he doesn't start if they just continue to manage him as they have. It is tricky though with James. Like I mean, like why are we even discussing James? Like do you own him or are we looking to buy him? I just wouldn't free hit James because it's just not worth the risk. Lefay or Gu to start. Lefay for sure. Haaland has got a Hattie against Palace and always scores against them. I mean, you don't have to captain Saka. Like no one said you have to. That hat trick was on his first season though, right? So that was what was that technically pre-Glasner as well. So yeah. I mean, he could score a goal, but I still think I wouldn't be that worried about it. Any replacement for Anderson? Sobo, if you can get there. Stack, if you want him. I think Anderson's actually a pretty good play this week, right? Tottenham at home is a pretty good game. Who's the best price midfielder for a free hit? Dango is a really cheap midfielder that I think is good. Do you think Amu is playing on Monday? I'm not sure. That's why I kind of took him out of my team, unfortunately. Who's your free hit keeper not named Raya Sanchez? Probably Kelleher. Martinez is not awful too, from a clean sheet perspective. Just thinking about that. Does Ekitike start for sure? Start Stack or KDH? Stack for sure. You wouldn't do Timber to Hincapie with only... Yeah, I wouldn't do that with one free transfer. One free transfer left is a bit of a tight spot. Akil Archibald, thank you so much for the super chat. Eze and Bruno to Saka and Gordon, or Bruno to Saka. Can't you do Eze and Bruno... Wait, why are you taking Bruno out? No. Don't. I don't think you need to go Saka. I actually think you should just not go Saka at all. You're like one of the odd cases where I would not sacrifice these players for Saka. I would not sell Bruno for this. I should see your team, Fran, is glorious. Is it better than mine? Martinez is yellow flag, not sure why. Oh, right. Yeah. But who did they play when they played their game versus Basel? Oh, they played Bizot. Okay, yeah, fine. Maybe if Martinez is yellow flagged. Okay, yeah. I mean, I still back Kelleher, right, as that third goalkeeper. Or you can always just go Raya if you really want to. Way better. VVD and Collins dunking on my team. Why do you have VVD and Collins? So, presumably you don't have O'Reilly, so that's terrible. And you won't have Timber, so... Yeah, I don't know, mate. It's not looking good for you, is it? Marco Bizot. Bizot. What do you think about Cherky? Yeah, he's a monster. He obviously doesn't play 90 minutes, but he's a monster. Marco Bizot. Because they're both bracing. Sobo plus Wilson or Rice plus KDH over the next few game weeks. I think I prefer Sobo plus Wilson for the next few, provided that you probably just pivot Wilson back into KDH soon. TC, Saka, or Haaland next week. I would go Haaland. O'Reilly or Virgil? As a transfer, O'Reilly. As a play this week, I would go Virgil. Marco Bizot. O'Reilly or Burn? I'd play O'Reilly. Start Haaland or Scarlett? Tough question, that one. Tough question. Would I start Reece James or Timber? I'd probably start Timber, because I think Reece James can just auto-sub if Timber doesn't start. I really don't think Timber's going to come on for a one-pointer. Unless there was an injury. Like, for example, if you think about the Brentford game where Timber was rested, and yeah, no spamming the chat, please, Phantom. But yeah, I'd play Timber for sure. I mean, it's not even a question. Palmer this week and then into Foden next week. I mean, Palmer doesn't even seem like he's actually fit, right? If you listen to the press conference comments, like, it just seems like he's still struggling with the groin thing. So who knows how many minutes he's going to play for Everton. Roder and Senesi first bench. I mean, like, you can ask me as many times as you want, but I've said Senesi. So if you want to play Roden, right? I personally just think that, yeah, I mean, like, Leeds obviously have higher clean sheet odds, but I just think that the chance of, let's say, Senesi getting DEFCON is much, much higher. So it does make up for it. And you're kind of expecting both players to concede anyways. Tarkowski or Virgil van Dijk this week? Virgil van Dijk for sure. Start Dewsbury, Hall, or Mavropanos. Sorry, that was a mouthful. Dewsbury, Hall. What do you think of Doku? I still think he's decent as a hold. I wouldn't really look at him as a buy though. Yeah. Thoughts on Enzo? His data is great. I think I would keep him for this game week personally. If I was an Enzo owner, I probably would have kept him. I'm saying this whilst Mbeumo has great data and I sold him this week, but it's because I just think a bit of a precarious situation. If he, let's say, just missed the match on AFCON, I wouldn't forgive myself. And, if he hauls, so be it. I just wanted to downplay the risk. But yeah, we'll find the Liverpool lineup soon. Chelsea as well. Oh, man. I do want Salah benched and I do want Isak out of the squad. That would be nice. Best of luck this week. To you as well, Philip. Please keep... I will not accept Philip Collins... or not even Philip Collins, but Nathan Collins scoring when he didn't score for me on my free hit 13, and I got 0.5 XG from him. So, yeah. I'm going to ignore Collins haul. Marapanos could actually be... Yeah, no, Marapanos is really good DEFCON. I've seen it already. But the problem is, do you actually have faith in West Ham defense compared to, let's say, Fulham defense? I don't really think so. Obviously, it seems like they've turned a corner. Good luck for Vesta. Made the Timber tank if you move. Good luck. Yeah, I think if that gives you more, security at night, it's fine. As I said, I've done very basic sort of security moves as well in terms of moving and boom out of my team. So it is what it is. Burnley going to score easy. Fair enough. Yeah. Triple captain Saka this week. If you don't like Haaland next week, go for it. Why not captain Thiago? I just think Leeds aren't that bad, but Wolves are. Liverpool League is out. Check out Spine Club HQ. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's quickly check that out. But honestly, everyone, I don't think you're going to be able to react on time. So let me just quickly read it. I mean, it surely won't impact me unless Sobo's benched. Where's the leak? I don't see it. Oh, Mo Salah to make the bench tomorrow. Yeah, that was kind of already suggested, right? But you never know if that's 100% correct. Oh, in the replies. Okay, we're still running out of time, but what's he said? He's benched. Yeah, he's just said the same thing, right? And he said KS is not starting. Fair. We'll see what happens. Isak is out. Yeah, I obviously went with Sobo on the assumption that Isak is out, Salah's benched. Sobo starts, water is wet. It is great. Water is wet. Water is also very healthy. Drink your water. Don't get dehydrated, and we'll see you next week. That is the deadline, guys. That is the deadline. So I hope you made your moves, and best of luck this game week. Please do subscribe, like the video as well. It does really help support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, and goodbye, and best of luck this game week.